Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's Thursday,
the only way to start.
Of February 2021. Hello and welcome to the Situation Room. City Muga.
Yes, Eric Latif.
Your pesa ni mingi sana.
You know, I like the
Kuna
way...
mtu anauza nini?
I like your perspective. Anauza?
Kaplot mzuri sana. Touching tarmac.
Now, amenities zote ziko. Iko maji, iko
Iko
barabara,
kila kitu.
iko stima.
All serviced.
Na iko neighbors.
Fully serviced. Alafu pande hii, unaona huyu general wa nini? Wami. Amenunua pande hiyo.
Karibu tu hapo tu.
Karibu tu hapo.
Mita
Alafu
mingi,
hata
si
ile
mita
side
mingi.
nyingine nilisikia sijui nini anataka kununua shamba hapo. So big people.
Ni ile plot nilisikia hata Uhuru alikuwa anataka kununua. Hapo hapo tu.
Yes.
Okay.
Wamekuja, in fact wanataka kujenga nini hapo, another very big factory.
Hey, the things that lure Kenyans
To parting with their money.
And it's always a very nice plot.
Oh, it's a very nice plot.
It's a very nice plot.
And the neighbors are tough.
Very nice neighbors.
Very big neighbors.
You know the way the plot is
Hata
described.
Baraga ile pesa yake ya retirement, nasikia sasa anataka kujenga nyumba yake hapa, aishi hapa.
You know the way they describe it, you'd think it's something edible. Okay?
Oh, yes.
Even the neighbors, you think the neighbors are edible. Neighbors wazuri sana. Ni watu wangwana. Si watu wa TV hivi. Si watu kena. So hivi people are who exactly?
Na iko na demand hiyo ni shamba.
Kwanza hivi sasa.
Imepanda sana. Imagine huyu alinunua 300.
Na sasa.
Huyu alinunua 7.
Yes. Inaendelea tu kupanda.
Inapanda.
Na plot zimebaki chache. Where the difficulty comes in is when you actually go there, you look for the tarmac, you realize you left with something like around 20 kilometers away.
Far.
Yes, electricity again 20 kilometers.
Kuna bypass imepangiwa hapa. All right. You're well though?
I thank God I am actually very, very, very well.
Good.
Yes. A little mirth in the morning, lovely stuff.
Very good.
That's the system working.
It's the system doing its
The
thing.
system moving, my friend. These dreary, heart-wrenching things that we keep dealing with every day in our news. Sometimes giving them a little bit of a break is useful.
Yeah, it is. And the break is over because we are back to dealing with them. Okay. Nduoko.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Morning.
Salama kabisa.
Kabisa.
Umenunuliwa kashamba?
Sorry?
Umenunuliwa kashamba mahali?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unanyamaza.
Unanyamaza. Ni ya watoto. Okay. Had a good day yesterday?
I think so.
The little that you remember.
Yeah.
Hey.
Have you seen how long drawn that response is?
Yeah. I think so.
And that tilting of the neck.
Not very sure, but
What's really doing to you?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we get it. It's okay.
Welcome to the Situation Room. We'll have interesting conversations today. We'll be looking at this whole thing of transforming plastic waste and sustaining construction materials. Okay? That's one of the conversations we'll be having today in our Agri-Talk, looking at how we take care of our environment as well. So we'll have a conversation with the two ladies who will be telling us what's happening in terms of sustaining the environment. And then, and I'm not looking at you, CT, we'll talk about retirement and retirement benefit. I'm making sure that I'm looking down as I speak this, so you do not accuse me of, yeah. So
Understand that looking at me doesn't mean it is your eyes that have been pivoted in my direction. It means the words that are being uttered are referring to me. You are looking at me with your words. So continue looking at me. Yes.
Ninakuchoma. 20 years of growing and safeguarding Kenyans' retirement benefits. We'll be speaking with the Chief Executive Officer of the Retirement Benefits Authority. So this is the regulator of all retirement benefit schemes and programs in the country. If you've taken up any, sort of retirement package anywhere, you are paying a pension somewhere through your employer individually, all those are regulated by this particular authority, the Retirement Benefits Authority. So we'll have a lot of conversations with him. He'll be here in the studio. Think about it. If you are getting to a point where you're wondering, sasa lakini hii pesa, you can call in and ask him those questions. But COVID-19 is also here, and we have that conversation to start off the show.
Yes, absolutely. COVID-19 still continues around the world. We're still at 107 million cases. World Health Organization is still encouraged by the reduction in the reporting of cases around the world. We look at still high numbers in the top 10 countries. Something seems to shift a little bit. Brazil now very, very close to India, off by about 1 million cases. So Brazil now is at 9.6 million cases. Russia is at 4 million. The UK is almost at 4 million, just short by 15,000. France is at 385,622. Let's look at the cases in the UK, because of the fact that if you're now looking at proximity to Kenya in terms of what's happening and what we saw coming out of the British Army in terms of the cases that they found in Nanyuki over the last few days, and then the reports that came out and the warnings that have come out from the Ministry of Health. Important to see what's happening in the UK and people still flying in from the United Kingdom. 13,013 new cases yesterday. This is a far cry from the 66,000 cases that they were recording just a month ago. The lockdown clearly has helped, and now we can see a direct result of that. So what they had said for those who were traveling internationally was all essential travel. That is what was going on, and so that's why you see that there would be some infections, or those that were already UK citizens who are already resident outside of the United Kingdom. The day before that, they had recorded 12,000 cases and 14,000 the day before. So, you do see a reduction of about 50,000 COVID-19 cases being reported in the UK. So something that they're doing is working. Let's look at other countries like Germany, where they've seen, they sounded the alarm a little bit yesterday because they had seen some infections, new infections in the country, where they thought that they were able to sort things out. Now, this is in a specific town where the first vaccines had already been administered, and then they saw infections within those same towns. So they're starting to question whether the vaccinations that were administered actually worked, because these are individuals who were vaccinated and then got COVID-19 and currently have it. Germany, 9,246 cases yesterday, 5,725 the day before, and 4,816 the day before that. So as they've begun vaccinating, we've seen an increase in about 4,000 cases of COVID. So they're asking themselves what's going on right now. People who have been vaccinated are getting infected with COVID-19. So there's a bit of a worry for them in terms of what is working and what is not working.
But then perhaps we need to define working here. And we also need to look at the reality of vaccines, okay? See, there's the expectation, from what I'm hearing, there is what they expect vaccines to do. The question is that what vaccines do? They reduce the chances of you getting infected. They don't eliminate the chances of you getting infected. But also remember, when you talk about the EU and the countries that are in the EU, there's something that the UK and the US did that the EU did not do. They were quite willing to invest in the production process of vaccines, from the time of simply coming up with the sequence that would work to the time of actually investing in the production. So they could more or less determine how much they were going to get. And then they helped the entire process by pre-ordering. Okay? And you're talking about pre-ordering something like around 2 billion.
Right.
The EU delayed their whole processes. Now, some of these countries, if you look at them, they have a more centralized way of doing things. Meaning, if you look at many countries in the EU, with the exception of, say, France, for instance, okay, they are decentralized. They have a system similar to the one we have in Kenya. So it has many benefits when it comes to sort of like disseminating information. But when it comes to getting the entire country together, people with a centralized system like the UK and France are better off because they have everybody under one database.
Right.
So the reality, again, with the vaccines is that 1 in 10 vaccines, you talk about the reality of vaccines, even as they produce them, or as they begin working on them, 1 in 10. And some of the vaccines...
1 in 10 will succeed.
Yes.
We'll move from research
if you have
trial
20,
stage 2.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Wow.
So all you need to do, you see, there is what we expect, what we anticipate, and that is based on the problems that we face and we foresee with the virus. But then there is also the reality of vaccines, because vaccines have been there for the longest time. See, people are talking about vaccines. Now, there are those who are now talking of going into the second stage of working on the variations of vaccines, which they expect. Because vaccines did not come into being when COVID came into being. They have known that these viruses will mutate. So there are those who have actually gone into rejigging whatever they had and trying to figure out how best they can actually deal with the variations that will present themselves. The EU was slightly slow in the takeoff at certain levels. So even right now, when it comes to ordering, because if you do not, for instance, make the investments required at an earlier time, the production lines will be limited. So even what they can produce will be limited.
Sure.
If you are hesitant in the way you finance or you participate, again, that entire process will be slowed down. Now, countries that didn't delay or didn't dither, they don't have that problem.
Don't have that problem.
No, they don't have that problem.
Well, speaking of other countries that have put their hope in the vaccine, we're looking at Kenyan businesses very optimistic of an economic rebound amid expectations of the COVID-19 vaccine and after schools reopened in January. So there was a market perception survey that was carried out by the central bank, and it showed that businesses are confident of a return to normalcy for most economic activities, and they're feeling that the vaccinations coming into the country and vaccinating quite a number of people will contribute to that. So they were targeting the survey was targeting chief executives, senior officers of over 300 firms comprising of banks, financial institutions, and non-bank private firms. And they said that they feel that with the vaccine coming in, what you do is that you buffer the population with at least a sense of hope. You buffer the population with, a layer of protection. And because of that, then they felt that people would then be able to go back into their businesses and that the economy would then be revived as a result of that. So vaccine towards a better economy, this is what they see that it can happen. And so folks are quite encouraged that when the vaccine comes, the economy will get a shot in the arm, no pun intended.
Okay.
Hopes.
It's all about hopes.
It's hopes.
It's 6:15. A very good morning to you wherever you are tuned in. Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or YouTube. We are happy that you're tuned in. So let's take a break now, take a look at the weather, and then we will be looking at the headlines shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done
in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande hiyo mbwa yako iko na
The weather with Spice
It's rain
FM.
in Nairobi today. It's mostly cloudy at the moment at 17 degrees. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 23. Looking at cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 14, going to highs of 24 today. 26 will be recorded as the high in Nakuru. It's partly cloudy at the moment at 17. Clear skies in Eldoret at 14, going to highs of 23 and lows of 15 today. Where it is raining is Kisumu at 20, highs of 29. And partly cloudy conditions in Kakamega, highs of 29 today also. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Malindi will record highs of 31 today. Mostly cloudy conditions at right now. It's hazy in Kampala. Highs of 27 today, 19 at the moment. Chance of rain later on. It's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 26. Highs of 30 and lows of 27. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 16 degrees. Highs of 25. Highs of 34 in Lagos, and it's mostly clear at 27. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 26. Highs of 33 and lows of 24. Beijing is hazy as well this morning. Quite some smog in the atmosphere. 4 degrees. It'll be slightly warmer today, going to highs of 12 and lows of -3. It's -5, getting colder in Paris. Clear skies, however, and some snow expected anytime from now. The highs will be 1 and lows of -3. It's mostly cloudy in London at -2, highs of 0 and lows of -2. 1 degree in New York at about 11 p.m. Wednesday night. Highs of 1 just and lows of -3 getting into Thursday.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
18 minutes after 6. Very good morning to you. Live stream is up. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And people are already logged in.
Yeah, so now we've seen that Shiraga is on the train this morning, or at least at the station, getting ready to go. And he says, good morning, guys. Good morning, Lady Ndruko, Sir Siti Muga, and Reverend Eric Latif. That is Sam Waweru from Muruga. Says, good morning to you guys today. Bade Ashley's tuned in from Machakos, as is Laban Kapte Tanui. Brian Amakanga is tuned in from Kapsabet Town, Chepsui Village. Moses Kashari says, Kenyans don't yield on the field of corruption. Vote wisely in the referendum. Well, there's a piece of advice this morning. Dagio Guta says, good morning, Situation Room. I'm here now with my good people. Ndu, there's a big land here in Yakach. Oh, okay. Waterman Jeffrey says, good morning, folks. Laban Tanu is tuned in. Marutit Kemboy, Eric Latif, I hope you guys will talk about the Chief Justice recruitment. Well, let's see. Isaiah says Minneapolis is tuned in, and Nisa Mondi Ben is tuned in from Mombasa this morning. And thanks God that Corona has not affected Kenya like other places in the world. Isaiah tuned in as well. Rogers Lai tuned in from County 001. Moses Gashari says, good morning. And he wants to know why, from the CS of Industries, why Kenya doesn't have fund innovations. Kindly. Can we talk about this? Robin Bogo says, good morning. My goodness, everybody's in this morning. Controversious Nyandhois, I'm going to stop there, says, good morning from Kisumu. Shadrach Kiprono is tuned in as well. Everybody's tuned in. Juma Mashala, I love that name, is tuned in this morning as well. And Justy says, good morning, live from Kampala in Uganda. Lawrence, Cyprian, Eduson, Benson, good morning, everybody.
We see you all, and we thank you very much for tuning in. Good morning. CT, today's proverb. Chief,
yes.
king, queen.
Today we are not at the specific level of king or chief. It's just leader.
Okay.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, then all are tired.
How true. How very true. If the leader of the hunting party gets tired,
Then all are tired.
you're a game Meisha. Okay.
It's Namibian, by the way, just so that you understand.
Right. Had to be. Okay, so let's take a look at the headlines. CBC.
So why teachers are new power gurus? We see this report having had come out yesterday, and we're still looking at all the issues surrounding just this. The new system, teachers get more powers over your child's career, from imparting knowledge to molding character and behavior. They will also have a big say in the administration of critical school-based tests that will account for up to 60% of the academic score. So on this new report, which was assented to by the president and even encouraged, they've been handed more powers in sweeping reforms under the new education system. So this now gives the teacher a say in what a child becomes after school, as opposed to the current scenario where role learning and passing of exams are the major determinants of a learner's career path. Under the new curriculum that lays less emphasis on cutthroat national examinations, more weight is rested on learner-centered education with proper guidance from the teachers. According to the new changes on administration of primary school-based assessments, which will count for up to 60%, a child's future will not entirely be on academic performance.
Okay.
All right, so...
What I'm not getting is, what's the difference between CBC teacher and 844 teacher?
At the moment,
CBC and 844 teacher.
just that 844 teachers went through some kind of training to be able to administer the
No,
CBC
curriculum. In this story of now that they become new power gurus, how? I'm not getting the how of how they'll be more powerful than before.
So before it was to teach and give exams, right? So now they become a little bit more in terms of guidance and in terms of counseling, and say, you can go in this particular path, and they basically will be able to guide, whereby before it was a matter of teach and pass exams.
You know, when it comes to effort, on a scale of 1 to 10, you've
11.
You've done very well. Yes, effort of explaining it. There actually is no difference. They're saying there's a difference,
Yeah.
but
So they're saying they're
everything
going to
that
do.
they're saying is everything that teachers were supposed
This is
to
what
do.
teachers do
all-
anyway.
We're
yes.
supposed to do.
Yes,
They do.
No. Not supposed to do.
Because when a child goes to school, it's a teacher who teaches them. There's a test and a continuous assessment test in the middle of the term, at the end of every term, at the end of every year that you progress into the next year. If we talk about power, then the teacher has the power because they determine whether you're going to go to the next class or not.
And then
Because they're the one who set an end of year
Yes.
exam, and they're the ones who mark that exam.
And then there's a teacher-parent meeting where parents go to school and they talk to each individual teacher who teaches their child. And they give you a breakdown of what the child is doing, how they're doing, the things that the child can do to... Everything that is being stated there it may have been watered down to some degree.
Yeah.
But that is exactly what teachers... Not are supposed to do. That's what teachers do.
Well, I guess they felt it was not being done with the right emphasis. It was not done until the right degree. and
If
so
they push
felt
it that way,
needed
then
to
it's
be
going
re-emphasized.
it's going to become a
I think
con.
it's the writers of this story and the headline. Teachers are new power gurus.
It's a reporting issue.
It makes it sound like now teachers get more powers over your child's career. Teachers always have power over your child's career because they are the ones who are molding this child.
Have we not stated here on many occasions how it is? Your child will tell you, excuse me. Teacher said.
Yeah.
Meaning, I hear you, but teacher said. Now, that is what we're going to go by. Look, what we have seen over time is not just eroding the powers of the teacher. No. But eroding the respect that teachers should be accorded. And teachers know this, they have felt it, so they in turn have responded. So they don't bother as much as they used to. But it's not that, but some still do. And why do you think it is that then parents look for schools where they feel the class size is small, so the teacher has more time to pay
Can focus.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and give attention? Why do they do that? Because they understand that they're giving the teacher an opportunity to do what the teacher knows how to do best. Yes. Now, the reporter, whoever reported this, and Eric, you're spot on there, this particular report is misleading.
I think so. The Nation has also a story on the CBC, and they have decided to go the way of explaining, because they say teachers, learners, parents, education officials, civil society, religious leaders, all made phone calls to the Nation seeking more information. Get why I was laughing? Education officials were calling the Nation to ask for more information about this CBC thing.
Yes.
So they have decided to do an FAQ, all right? Those frequently asked questions, and they've decided to respond. Number one, how many years will learners spend at each level and school in total? And they have said you'll spend 2 years in pre-primary, 6 years in primary, 6 years in secondary. Those who proceed to university will study for 3 years, while those who join certificate, diploma, or technical courses will study for varied periods, depending on the program that they take.
All right.
So it becomes 26333, all right? So 2 years in pre-primary, 6 years in primary, 3 years in junior high school, 3 years in senior high school, 3 years in university.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
The Star has brought in an interesting discussion.
Uh-huh.
They are saying that, fine, this 60% you speak of, which will be administered in school and which will be at the behest of
The
the
exams.
teachers. The exams. See, outcome. All this learning, see, there are outcomes.
Yes.
At that particular point, said unscrupulous teachers could easily manipulate these results. After all, it counts for 60%. And of course, there's been a reaction to it. But unfortunately, when we look at the history, something that one Mr. Matiang'i tamed very well,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
When the Kenya National Examination Council exam was being manipulated, okay? And you'd find a school, people have more A's than they have C's, and you wonder, more A's than C's. No, it never quite works out that way. It never does. But that was the situation that we had in our schools.
Yeah.
So if they were manipulating the Kenya National Examination Council exams, what about exams which they are the ones who set and administer?
That they will play games with it.
Yes.
But there is also some issue of standardization by NEC. Although that is for the main grades where you're transitioning. At the transitional grades, grade 3, there's a national assessment. And then grade 6, there's other national assessment as well. So the others is where it doesn't... the teachers are the ones who are setting this, right? And this is where they are likely to manipulate. I see what they're saying.
And of course, the question that is also arising from moderation, does NAC have the capacity to moderate all these exams which are going to be set by all these teachers in all these schools that we have?
Unless they set the exam themselves.
That's the easiest way of moderating it. Look, the idea of continuous assessment being part of an examination system is a really good idea. So that you take into account what someone has been doing over a period of time.
Yeah.
Not just one exam where there are people who get stage fright when they have an exam.
Yeah.
They just don't examine well. It's not that they don't know the content. They don't examine well. And examinations by their very nature, as we said them in this country, they are scary. Because, well, everything depends on it. If you don't pass the exam, you don't go to Form 1. If you don't pass Form 4, you don't go to university.
Yeah.
Perhaps these are some of the things that are now being taken into consideration within this curriculum, that teachers now looking at the needs of and need to be a little bit more sensitive to what is actually going on with their students, as opposed to just teaching, administering an exam and moving, to be able to know the strengths of your students, to be able to say, okay, this one I see going in this direction. They may want to do this, but I see their strengths lie here. I see this person is brilliant. However, they don't test well. Are there things that we can do to make sure that they still perform well, even with the little inhibitions that they have here and there? I think that's what we're looking at now. To say that the teachers have a closer ear to the ground and actually know what is coming out in terms of output.
They do, but it is also these same teachers who are responsible for the mass cheating that existed before.
Okay, so let's talk about, if we're looking at that 60% when you're doing grade 6, at the end of grade 6 to go into junior secondary.
Yes.
So we'll be looking at from grade 4, 5, and then 6, how you've performed.
Yes.
And so you're saying that in terms of manipulating this, you'll be making sure that all your students are doing well at the end of grade 5.
Yes.
At the end of grade 4.
Or the school will make sure that is what happens to their school.
That they have set an exam that is so easy, so that now at the end, our students are going to very good junior high schools.
Look, the only way because these questions will keep rising.
Yeah.
Okay. That 60-40 demarcation is, in my mind, should be changed. It should be inversed.
Should be the other way around.
Yes, it should be. Because continuous assessment tests, yes, should comprise a reasonable portion of the overall outcome. Make it 40% as opposed to 30% that you have, for instance, in our universities. All right? But let the 60% be something that is beyond the teachers, something that is already moderated. Then you give a clearer semblance of a level playing field. So it doesn't matter how much you think they could be manipulated at the school level, there is something that will break even.
They're all going to do a standard exam.
Yes, exactly.
At some point.
Yes.
Okay. 6:30. Let's take a break to see what's happening on the roads, and then we look at more headlines. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We are glad that you're tuned in this lovely Thursday morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
From 1902, the Standard Group has transformed to help steer the ship in the right direction and become one of the leading media houses in Africa. With 4 TV channels, 3 radio stations, robust digital platform, and numerous progressive initiatives, we are everywhere our audiences are. We don't just bring content, but content that inspires and motivates the people who've supported us over the years. It is the pillar that will forever cement and uphold our heritage as the Standard Group. The Standard Group. It's our future's heritage.
Traffic.
All right, guys, already started off with a bang this Thursday morning. Unfortunately, right at Lunga Lunga Road, earlier, a few minutes ago, there's been an accident and it looks fatal. We've not had anybody come to sort out that. Agencies waiting for the police to show up and also to take care of that. So as you approach the area, please be extremely careful because we still have bodies lying on the road. So please approach with caution. We're looking at Mombasa Road just past Kimbo at the Machakos Junction. There's been an accident as well involving trucks this morning. So there's build up on both sides as far back as the Machakos Junction this morning. So if you're coming in that direction, there's an accident that has happened ahead. All right, there's a police collection center along Roiro Uplands Road this morning. If you know what that means, it means that things are going to slow down considerably. So you want to keep a watch for that. Apart from that, traffic seems not so bad at this moment. It's building up on Mombasa Road as it is on Thika Road. We'll look at the details in a short while. The eastern and southern bypasses open and up for use as well as Red Hill. Talk to us, Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
26 minutes to 7. So the search for the Chief Justice and replacing Justice Jackton Boma Ojwang in the Supreme Court has moved to the next step after the Registrar of the Judiciary released those who had applied. The applicants for position of Chief Justice are 13, and the applicants for position of Judge of the Supreme Court are 9, some of whom have also applied for position of Chief Justice. So it's right up there with the people who are, in the running for this.
Does the acting Chief Justice not get to apply?
She did not apply.
Oh,
she
she's
chose
not
not to.
okay.
All the judges, including those sitting in the Supreme Court, had the opportunity to
none
apply.
have applied.
None applied.
Very interesting.
Which means they understand what the job entails.
They'd rather do something else at this point in their lives.
No, they're already there.
They're already there and they're doing it.
They're okay with it. Yes,
So, what we are seeing now is the number of judges, the number of people who had applied for position of Chief Justice. Professor Otinga Mare, Professor Moni Wekesa, Justice William Ouko, Justice Marete, Alice Jepkoe-Chiano, Lady Justice Martha Koome, Justice Matthew Nduma, Frederick Ngatia, Patricia Kamere Mbote, Professor Philip Mulgor, Said Juma Chitembwe, Otondi Ontweka, Brian Matagaro. All these are seeking that position. It's going to be interesting to see how this is all balanced out, you know. You're going to be looking at regional balance. You're going to be looking at gender. So, first of all, the Deputy Chief Justice is a woman. So, therefore, process of elimination, we can confidently say Lady Justice Martha Koome, Alice Jepkoechiano, Professor Patricia Kamore Mbote, and those ones, the likelihood of them becoming the Chief Justice drops, because the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice cannot be of the same gender. So gender already?
Shida.
Knockout. Then now we go into regional balancing. Okay, so who, where, right? Who comes in where? And very many people, you know, who have already sent in their comments, or, you know, commenting about this and seeing who is likely to take this position, who is likely not, who are you not likely to see in terms of region, who, where did Chief Justice Maraga represent, what region? If it's a Nyanza region, are we going to see somebody representing the Nyanza region? Remember Justice Ojwang as well. So we're going to be seeing how to balance out the Supreme Court in general and the position of Chief Justice. I think one of the judge that's going to be taken to the Supreme Court or appointed to the Supreme Court is going to be a woman. My hunch. Of these two interviews, one, the new judge of the Supreme Court will be a woman. And then the judge that becomes the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court will be from Nyanza.
And so there you knock out the gender card as well. Well,
you know, the thing that I am thinking about, all the Trapeze Act and then the tightrope walking and then the tribal balancing aside, what other qualities does one look for in a Chief Justice? Must he be somebody who has practiced law? Must he at least have spent some time on the bench? What are these? Just basic legal qualities. Forget the circus.
Yeah.
Okay?
Your deep understanding of law.
What is it that you're looking for? Okay? One doesn't have to be a professor of law. But if one has been practicing law long enough, you have professorial qualifications. Because you have delved into the law, you've been part and parcel of the law. In fact, you've been part and parcel of creating an understanding of the law. So yes, but what is it? Because I've looked at what has been written and I haven't seen that coming out.
I guess if you look at the previous two interviews for Chief Justice, look at, for example, Dr. Mutunga. Dr. Willie Mutunga had not practiced as a judge in the judiciary, but had practiced law and had taught law for many years, right? Now, if you come to Justice Maraga, had practiced in the judiciary for many years, understood and had risen the ranks to Court of Appeal. So understood the system pretty well. So I guess they'll be looking at that balance of your deep understanding of law, of jurisprudence. Maybe sometimes they'll be asking, where have you been published? What kind of precedent-setting judgments have you delivered if you have been serving as a judge? What's your track record in the judiciary in terms of upholding the rule of law and advancing jurisprudence? Maybe they'll be looking at those kind of things.
You know, the thing about the practice of law, as I see it, you mentioned the word publishing, and that sort of like jogged my mind. As one participates in these processes, one is actually publishing. Because all these things are documented, because there are reference points. At the time, even when the judge delivers their verdict, it is documented, it is published, and we know it is Justice so-and-so or Magistrate so-and-so who brought about this particular conclusion to this, to whichever case was before them. Anyway, let us wait and see. It may be clarified for me.
it may.
The interviews will be public.
Yes.
Be sure to watch.
How's that for a trailer?
I will actually watch.
Yeah?
But I will watch even more closely the outcome. Yes, and I will balance what I saw and the outcome.
And the
Then I will
outcome.
ask the question, okay, so how did we arrive at this particular outcome?
Are they related?
Are they related at all?
Okay, voila. Sonko now moves to block criminal terrorism charges. Former governor accuses the DPP of formulating an evil scheme of lies, falsehoods, and distortions to fix him. Former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has moved to the High Court seeking to stop the criminal charges preferred against him before a Kiambu court. He also wants the court to put on hold criminal charges, rather terrorism charges, which he's yet to plead to, saying the charges are trumped up and meant to persecute him politically. In the petition under certificate of urgency, Sonko also wants the court to order his immediate release pending the determination of the petition. He was charged before a Kiambu court with assault, among other charges. It says he's been subjected to psychological, mental, and physical torture, which is tantamount to inhuman and degrading treatment. So, he has named Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai, Director of Public Prosecutions Nordin Haji, and Attorney General Kihara Karaoke as respondents in the case. He says the DPP has formulated an evil scheme of lies, falsehoods, and distortions to fix him on allegations that have no basis. He is aware that he said that the government wants to resurrect criminal charges against him, which collapsed in 1998. Some of the cases, he said, were quashed by Justice Samuel Oguk in 2001, adding that the objective of resurrecting the cases was to extinguish his political career. He says he was unlawfully detained before he was presented before court without his knowledge. Huh?
Please continue reading.
Did you hear that?
I heard it. Continue reading.
So he was detained without his knowledge, and this was unlawful.
So who was detained? Him.
Yeah.
Okay, without his knowledge. All right, carry
He
on.
didn't know that
He didn't know that he was
detention.
being detained, or he did not know that his detention was unlawful. You
Please
can look
carry
at
on.
it like that. And he says this is all in complete contravention of his constitutional rights. So he also says the charges were preferred against him as a result of public comments he made and following shoddy investigations by the police, a move, he says, lacks a show of independence. So he says, you know what, all of this is no basis, so High Court, look into this and remove.
You know, I actually agree with the immediate former excellency of Nairobi. I agree with him.
That
That
he
he
was
did
not
not know.
aware of
No,
his detention.
everything he has said to the last dot and letter and the crossing of the T's, I agree with him.
But
Guess what?
I see you from far, City.
Yeah, you do see me from far. And let me present myself out in the open. This is what all those people who are incarcerated, whether it's in a police cell, whether it is at a holding cell, whether it is at a maximum prison, that's what people go through. That's what happens when you are arrested.
So he needs to suck it up.
No. I'm not going in that direction. I'm simply saying he's highlighting what
An injustice.
that exists in our system and which many Kenyans go through. When I say, and let me add on a daily basis, you are arrested, you are taken to a cell, you are taken to court.
Kidogo, you're in court, next you're in
kidogo,
industrial
area. Yes.
And they forget about you.
Awaiting. Now, all these things that he mentioned, these are the things that all those people go through.
Yep,
So, he is spot on.
that's very true. The thing is whether the way he's raising it, it's going to be looked at from the issue that he's raising, or it's going to be treated as, all right, so what is Sonko blabbing about now?
Eric, this is the problem of talking too much. Huh? Yes, because people are used to you talking. So even when you're saying something that is sensible and not to be listened to, it is lumped with everything else that you have
Everything
said
else.
that they didn't particularly want to hear or listen to. That is the problem.
The message disappears.
The message is swallowed up in your own narrative.
Unfortunately. 6:45. Let's take another break and then we'll look at other headlines. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
When it comes to bridging the information gap to help strengthen the agricultural sector in our country, you can always rely on Farm Kenya to be the glue holding everything together. And now, courtesy of the partnership with Farmstar, things couldn't be better. Introducing Farm Kenya platform, and it goes like this. Our SMS service will help farmers upload and publish their products without smartphones, while the Farm Kenya app will allow buyers locate, purchase from, and engage the farmers directly. So if you're a farmer, send a free SMS to 40446 and connect with buyers free for life. That's 40446. If you're a buyer looking for local produce, download the Farm Kenya app from Google Play Store or the Apple Store for free. Remember, ukulima sio shamba pekee. Ukulima ni digital. Ukulima ni Farm Kenya platform.
Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Brought to you by Farm Kenya and Farmstar, working to secure your growth.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Okay.
Spice FM.
What are you looking at in the business?
Actually, I looked at business, and then I looked some. Then I decided that
It's not your business.
actually, he has put it well, because you look and you wonder, is there anything that I really want to talk about? But let me just mention it. Kenya Power enters solar to curb consumer switch.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I was wondering.
It's like soda companies now making water.
Electricity, yes. Well, Coca-Cola started making water also. So what was a big deal?
So we can also do solar.
Yes.
Though they're too late to the Well, they're not too late, but they are late. Okay. But,
Yes.
Okay.
Kenya, electricity distributor Kenya Power is set to join the solar business. Set to join. Haven't joined yet. Hoping to stay relevant and protect its long-term revenue, increasingly threatened by a fast uptake of home solar panels by its main consumers.
Okay.
They've come late into this game. The oil industry understood this a long time ago. They bought into solar. They saw the threat. They understood it immediately, and they made sure that they were some of the key participants in the solar business, meaning they could decide how to restrain it, how to open it up, etc., etc.
So now Kenya Power is in the game. Is thinking of,
Kenya Power is in the game.
is considering and entering the game. I wonder how they're going to do it. So there'll be suppliers and installers of solar panels and maintenance.
You know where this thing becomes good for the consumer? The source of power is free. It's called the sun. Free, free. So they already have a ready market, as in they already know their consumers.
Yeah.
So now it's a question of, just like, remember how they offered the prepaid option when it comes to power consumption?
Yeah.
Yes, they'll now just offer you solar.
Bas, like that.
Yes, exactly. So they have an advantage over their competitors, really. And what I wonder is, why has it taken them this long to figure this out? Right, that's what happens when you have boards. People discuss and then discuss some more, and then there's no quorum, and then there's etc., etc., etc.
I'm telling you. Oh,
There's a bizarre story on page 5 of the Standard.
there is.
Is that what you're looking at as
No,
well?
you carry on, go with it.
Uproar of a ban to farm maize due to insecurity.
Yeah.
What is that story, Ndu?
Oh, so I mean.
Did you understand it?
No, I'm not getting it.
Okay, so
I didn't understand it.
Okay, so let's give you the details, right? So the government's ban on maize farming in 3 villages in Joro, Nakuru County has caused an uproar from the public. The Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government says the move is aimed at securing the area and preventing reportedly rampant ethnic attacks. Residents said it was illegal to bar them from exercising their rights to access food. So, what looks like it would escalate into a dispute between the state and residents. A number of farmers have already started planting maize and vowed to continue doing so, since the government has no right to ban them from tilling their land. So this particular piece of land where they want to till, the government has said, we can't allow anybody here because of insecurity. According to the chairman of the Ogiek Council of Elders, there is nowhere in the law that shows that the government can take such a step to stop people from exercising their rights to access food through a ban on the production of a crop. Now, he also said that most of the area's residents had planted the crop and that was expected to mature between July and September. The state, however, through a public notice issued by the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea and distributed by area chiefs, said the ban in Neswit, Ndoswa, and Marioshoni in eastern Mao was a preventative measure to curb recurrent ethnic clashes. So folks would be on this particular land fighting over this. So they said, okay, rather than clashing, nobody will till here, nobody will harvest here. This now is government protected.
Oh, wait. So we'd gone through the process of deciding, okay, you farm here, and you farm here. And it wasn't working.
It wasn't working because folks would still clash. All right? So
And
government
then
comes in and says,
when people
all
start
right,
fighting,
yeah.
people hide in the maize plantation, in the maize bushes, and police can't see them. There's an example here. On the 28th in September 2018, 6 people were killed and several others were injured. Several shops were also burnt in clashes that rocked several parts of Njoro and Molo. The shops in Kapketiro Center, Tiritagoi sublocation, were razed despite a curfew being in place. And Natembea says the maize fields are providing a perfect cover for the assailants. Security agencies are not able then to flush out the attackers because they attack a village, they go into the maize farm. And it's vast maize farms. So they're like, sasa, ndio muache hii maneno yenu, now speaking as like Natembea, muache hii maneno yenu ya upusi, musipande mahindi hapa.
Now the problem is, so some folks had already planted, right?
And
they're expecting to harvest in July, in just 6 months from now. So that maize will mature, it will dry, nobody will touch it.
No, not necessarily.
Nobody will go there.
Not necessarily. They haven't said you can't harvest what you have
It's just that the
and
next,
turning it into cattle feed.
next crop, this one of long rains,
Yes.
no planting.
No planting.
Yes, exactly. It's not all gone to it. Because remember, in those areas, it's not just they just plant maize. They also have cows.
Yeah.
They have animals. All right? So,
It becomes feed.
yes, it can become feed and a very good feed for the cows.
Hey, okay. This is quite interesting one. I'm sure George Natembea will give you a complete history of what happens in these villages.
We will call him at some point
Happens,
and
they
ask him.
attack, and then they run. In one of the incidences, a police officer was attacked by an arrow by a group of youth who were hiding in a maize plantation in a sweet ward. Cops are on patrol. Arrow.
The
And you're
government
wondering, where has it come from? People are in the
actually,
maize.
the government has handled it in a very genteel manner.
Right?
Yeah, why I'm saying genteel, because there are other options that they have at their disposal.
They
Burn
could.
it- no,
Burn
the
it
thing
down. Say
yes.
nobody's going to use it at all. Quickly, still speaking of maize, and one of these, another bizarre one. A man has killed his wife after a row over the sale of 10 kgs of maize. A 48-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of killing his wife following an altercation with his son over the sale of 10 kgs of maize in Lawina village, Molo, in Nakuru County, still around the same area. The suspect is said to have shot another arrow, at their 18-year-old son, which missed and hit his wife, Rose Kimoi, on the chest, killing her. So he wanted to kill his son, ended up killing his wife. Molo Sub-County Police Commissioner Samuel Mukusi said the suspect was arrested after the killing on Tuesday. He shot an arrow at his son but missed him. Unfortunately, the arrow lodged in the chest of his 43-year-old wife, killing her on the spot. Chief Haron Koima said a confrontation ensued after the father of 9 disclosed that he intended to sell the maize, which the duo disapproved. Collins Kipchumba, the 18-year-old, told off his father over his intention to sell their only food stock. This was the problem. This is the only food that we have.
It's the only food we
And
have.
you want
You
to
and your
sell it.
mother are conspiring to sell. And you've already sold 10 kilos. That's Gorogoro how many? Gorogoro is usually the 2 kgs.
2 kgs,
So
I think.
Gorogoro Tano.
Yeah. So, I mean, so after this, he shot at his son. He wanted to finish him. That did not quite work out.
Oh, yeah. Some of these things are just, you can't, you're like, okay.
This is what I'm telling you. I mean, now the option is death. The option is to finish your life. We can sort this one out. It's maize. It's 10 kgs. We can figure something out. But the figuring something out now has resulted in the death of somebody. And that was the decision that you took. You pick up an arrow and you point it at your son. You didn't want to have a conversation with him, clearly. You wanted to end this completely.
What you're dealing with is put it this way. This is just that particular straw that broke this camel's back.
Tensions must have been quite.
The person must have been under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
That committee that was set up to understand the mental health of this country and their recommendations, I don't think there is a better time for us to even look at that and say, you know something, it can't be too early to look at this.
No,
I don't think we should stop talking about it
No, it
because it's
can't.
serious.
If anything, we are lagging behind.
Yeah.
Because what we read can't be the only things that are happening of this nature.
Yeah,
No.
There must be a
very
lot
mainly.
more which we don't know
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Okay. But just as you think that this has become normal, let us deal with something else which is normal. Extra sitting push MPs allowances to 100,000. Let me just read it, please. MPs will now earn up to 100,000 monthly allowance after Parliament increased sittings to 5 sessions a week from 2 to speed up debates and passage of bills.
Is there any money for all these things?
But I've told you there's money. The National Assembly yesterday altered its calendar that will see MPs hold 2 sittings every Tuesdays and 3 on Thursdays.
Right.
Every sitting. It's not at a per day
3
sitting.
sittings on Thursday.
Yes.
So morning, afternoon, and
Late afternoon.
See, but they meet even at night. What stops them from meeting at night?
so now there'll be a morning until lunch,
But
and then 2
consider-
until 6,
Yes,
and
yes.
then another one.
Yes, exactly. Which ends late
That's
in the evening.
very hardworking. That's very good.
So they
very
deserve
good.
this allowance.
Oh, that's very good.
Just so that I can explain it further, they will now sit up to 9 p.m. from 2:30 p.m.
Okay.
Okay? As the House rushes to complete priority business amid COVID-19 pandemics that cut plenary sittings.
Last year.
Yes. If you look at what they used to do before and what COVID brought into being, this does not seem unusual. What makes it unusual is when you focus on the amounts they're earning against the backdrop of the problems we have, then it says they're earning more money again. No. Actually, there's a lot that they need to do which they couldn't do because of COVID. And when they do this business, they are paid an allowance. Remember, my argument at the time,
This is on top of their salary.
of course,
The
it's on top of
salary
the
is
salary.
there, but now for you to come to work, you're given an allowance for a period.
This is why, Eric, you remember when we were talking about the issue of the car grant,
Yeah.
which the MPs had. No, sorry.
It is called, I saw Lynn Mangit saying it's facilitation.
I agree.
As an employer, you facilitate your employees to come to work,
'Cause everybody
right?
knows
I agree completely.
Yeah, so now this is it.
I agree.
My head is spinning me.
What's good for the goose is
It's
also
good for the duck.
Precisely. So, if you can justify it with one group of people,
Then
again,
you justify with the other.
yeah, but they do the same thing. It's just that what they do is they do it at a county level, but they do exactly the same thing.
Now, the thing is, I think, aside from all this, it's looking at accountability. Can you account for your salary over the last 5 years as a member of parliament in terms of the basic job of an MP, being in parliament, performing the duty of passing the laws and checks and balances to the executive and everything else? How much have you participated? MPs should sign performance contracts
With whom?
with the public.
With their electorate?
Yes.
You know,
And through the electorate with the Parliamentary
I think there's
Service
something
Commission.
that Eric doesn't seem to understand, despite the fact that he understands many other things. The job of being MP is permanent and pensionable for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
It's permanent for 5 years.
Then,
And pensionable,
and pensionable. And you get the pension for the rest of your life.
yes, for 5 years of work. If you're talking about super XXX, I mean, surely. Can anything get better?
Just 5 years and you're sorted.
For life.
Yeah. Can imagine the governors who want two cars every 4 years.
And they haven't mentioned the chase cars
Yes.
and the PA.
And the PAs and all the workers
And the house that is
travel
being paid for
allowance,
and
and
Drivers.
medical.
I mean,
and
here we are
everything else.
imagining that what these MPs do is what's going to cost us money. Think again.
Nothing, eh?
Think again.
There's more.
Yes.
More conversations coming up in the next hour. Good morning. 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, let's take a look
Traffic.
at better now. The the interchange at James Gishuru and Wayaki, we're there at Gitaru. We're seeing some traffic there. It is clogging up. You can use the Red Hill bypass. If you can get out of that little nook, use the Red Hill bypass. And then if you're going into the CBD, that's the better option to use, because going out into the CBD and following James Gishuru down Uhuru Highway, that might take some time. Okay, guys? There's a little bit of jam right at Kiambu Road, but it seems to be mostly clear, at least at this point. At the DCI, there is a bit of jam because another accident has taken place there, unfortunately. Joining with Thika Road is looking quite something. At the Pangani Tunnel, that slows down some. Quite a number of vehicles there as people trying to get into the CBD, all right? Another accident on Thika Road. Today's that day again. Guys, please, just take it easy, shall we? We'll get there eventually. Tell us where you might be stuck. Let's take a look at the bypasses. Eastern and Southern looking pretty good as well. Spice of MKE, talk to us. Let us know if you're stuck somewhere, you find a good route. Let us know that as well. We'll take a look at industrial area in a bit and see how that has opened up. All right? All right.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you very much for choosing to start your day this way. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We're now live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours, in addition to being live on Spice FM and online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We begin the hour, every hour, with the day's proverb from C.T. Muga.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, then all are tired.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, kila mtu mkutano unakwisha.
Yes, then all are tired.
Mkutano unakwisha.
Over and out, kabisa.
Okay. So let's talk about conserving the environment and seeing how we can have sustainable, inclusive business in the country and what is being done about that. So there's a company that has been getting some good mileage in the last couple of weeks and months, and this is a company called Jijenge Makers. Jijenge. The G, and then there is Jenge, okay? Not Jijenge. All right? So Jijenge Makers, they make this, what? You didn't get it?
No. The spelling bee thing we got, but carry on.
It just...
Yeah, it did.
It's all right. Build yourself.
Jijenge Makers. So this company looks at how to recycle plastic, transforming plastic waste into construction materials. The founder of this company is a young lady, 29-year-old now, materials engineer. Her name is Nzambi Mate. Nzambi was celebrated by the United Nations Environment Programme last year in December as one of 7 young champions of the earth. One of only 7 from across the world, young champions of the earth. So she's joining us on the line, and alongside her is Karin Boomsma, who is Director of Sustainable Inclusive Business at KEPSA. And we want to understand what, first of all, Jijenge does, and then looking from the KEPSA angle in sustainable inclusive business, how we need to transform plastic waste into sustainable construction materials and what else we can do to conserve our environment. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the Situation Room, both of you. And we want to start with you, Nzambi Mate. First of all, congratulations for this award by the UNEP.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
So tell us about Jijenge Makers and what it is that you do.
So Jijenge Makers is an alternative, affordable, sustainable building product. Our first product line are pavers, which are made from recycled waste plastic. We started officially in 2017, but in terms of operation, we're just 1 year old.
All right. So since 2017 and up till now.
Yes. From 2017 up to now, it's a series of research and development and producing the product to the market.
Zambi, could you tell us again what you said that product was, this first thing that you are making?
So those are called pavers, the ones which are used in sidewalks,
Right.
Driveways, car parks, those stones.
Okay.
Yeah, those
Okay.
we make.
So then going through that process, so exactly what happens that then you make these pavers? What is the material that goes into making them that would then make them sustainable?
So the first thing is normally the pavers are made from cement or rather concrete, Portland concrete. But our pavers, they're made with recycled waste plastic and then aggregate. The aggregate is the sand, ballast, just like the ile koroga ya kawaida. Now, instead of using cement, we use plastic.
Mm-hmm. And where is all this plastic coming from? Where is all because obviously now we're talking about sustainable business. Where is all of this coming from? You're collecting it countrywide. You're asking people then who have this waste to bring it to you. Are there collection points? What are you doing? And how does this process then play out?
So we've partnered with different stakeholders. We have what we call the post-industrial and the post-consumer. So the post-industrial is that which we get from factories, and we also get from other recycling companies. And then the post-consumer is that plastic which we cannot get from that is collected from the environment once you finish drinking your soft drinks or whatever is being packaged in plastic. It's collected, taken to the recycling company. Now they recycle it to make pallets, which are used to make other products. In that process, there is waste that they produce. That's what we call post-consumer.
You mentioned, first of all, congratulations indeed, are in order. You mentioned that your products are affordable, among other things, and it's also sustainable. When you say affordable, what are you comparing it costs to?
So I'm comparing the cost to both strength versus the price. So, for example, in terms of the per square meter, the normal concrete, the one which can carry which the trucks can comfortably go for. For us, we use, instead of 80 mm, we use the 50 mm because our bricks are stronger. And if you compare in terms of the price margin, ours is about 10 to 30% cheaper.
All right, Karen, this comes to you. I mean, obviously, sustainable business, you had this conversation a little bit a few months ago, and looking then at what the interest is in making sure that businesses around the country are trying to be a little bit more responsible in terms of waste, especially for plastic. Would you say this falls in line in exactly what you've started to do and how you want to see this process play out?
Yes, definitely. It falls in line. Obviously, there are various things to do with plastics, and it depends on the type of plastic. So there are plastics that we would like to just eliminate because they're very hard to later on deal with, because they're hard to recycle, or they just end up in the environment. But there are also plastics that you would like to actually innovate on so that you can reuse them. Or recycle it, and in this case, upcycling. So that's a great way to circulate the plastics that are already in the country.
If you talk about the plastic situation in the country, Karin, we know we've had very many conversations about plastic waste, the government banning the use of plastics. We've seen government effort and industry's effort. What's the situation? How would you describe the situation in terms of plastics and plastic waste, particularly in the country at present?
I think we have managed to actually get a way more detailed conversation around plastics management. I mean, when we first spoke, or even let's look back 2 3 years ago, everyone was like, oh, we have to do something with plastic, but how now? What? Who's responsible? Where do we start? There's nothing. There's no infrastructure. It's not my responsibility. So we had a conversation which was actually not about type of plastic, what to do with plastic, not to do with plastic. It was just all very new. And I think where we are today is that, yes, we are still looking to build an infrastructure, but we're building it around sensible solutions. So the government also has come up, for instance, with an extended producer responsibility legislation. So when you start making policies and legislations, there are rules also for the private sector to play their game around and to actually help them and guide them on what to do with plastics and how to manage it best, because that's ultimately the case. And managing plastics is different for every type of plastic and the use of the different types of plastics. Some we just should not use. I mean, we still can't manage it. And some are crucial in life, and others are very usable to expend their life for a different purpose, like with the Jenga makers. So that's the situation now. I think we're progressing. We had the single-use plastic ban in restricted areas. Maybe that can be extended. Maybe some items can be eliminated completely. We have the EPR, which is a very good tool to actually guide responsibly this whole plastic journey and what should we do and where should we innovate. And we see a lot of great practice and also appetite for the private sector. The private sector says, listen, we know that we have to change. It's not sustainable. And let's make a plan that we can implement. Let's do something that is good for our business, but also good for the environment and will be law by very soon. So
this plastic that we speak of, how often can you recycle it?
It depends on the type of plastic. So it depends on the technical or the chemical composition. So in principle, for instance, a PET bottle, if the quality of the PET is high enough and it's pure enough, you can recycle it many times, even back into food grade. Till now, not forever. So even a PET bottle that you can completely recycle back to a PET bottle for the same purpose, you can't do that forever. And other plastics you can't really recycle more than maybe once. It depends really on the quality of the plastics. And there we need a lot of innovation because you can extend life. And that's also why you have to look at what is the purpose of that specific plastic.
So when you can't recycle the plastic, then what do you do with it?
Yeah, so that's the problem. So if you can't recycle it, you have to know that this is a product that we need to manage in a different way. We can't recycle it, but we need to get rid of it. But the first question is, do we really need it? And why is it not recyclable? So can we innovate and redesign that specific product and making it recyclable? And that's what we're also looking at. And we will look at, because we will get the Kenyan plastic in
Okay, Zambi, let me ask you this question. How durable is this product that you have been talking to us about? As in, how long does it last?
So in terms of, as Karin said, plastic takes a long time to decompose. There's some plastics found in the ocean that have been dated almost up to the 1950s and late 40s, beginning 50s. And so, in terms of the price point of our product, we have put a caveat or rather a time frame of between 30 to 50 years. However, we are currently in the process with other companies with other material labs to do what we call a life cycle analysis, and we can really clearly give an exact date. In terms of the durability, in terms of the strength, the pavers themselves carry about 3 to 5 times the weight compared to the normal concrete. and that is because during the production process, in the normal concrete paver, there's a lot of what you call air pockets. And so these air pockets provide a weak link. Is compared to Jijenge pavers, where because we use plastic as the binder, plastic is very polymerous or rather string-like in nature. And so when during the production process, we are able to cool it at very high pressure and temperature points, so therefore we reduce the air pockets, and therefore we reduce the weak points and hence stronger.
Okay, you've talked about pavement material. Now, give us the full range of uses that you can put this wonderful product that you have to.
So currently, the pavers themselves are predominantly made for the parking, or rather the paving, that is either in residential homes or in commercial parkings or even on roads. However, we are still trying to also redefine different uses. For example, we are looking to use the product, or rather see the possibility of the use of product as a cladding. Those are the bricks that you see on the walls that make walls really beautiful. And also we're trying to engage with different contractors and also civil engineers to use to make those platforms that they use when they're making in terms of a slab. So we're still trying to redefine the possibilities in terms of.
Do you see the possibilities of them being used as building material, as in building houses?
Yes, that has been done already. It can be done. It's been done mostly in Colombia. Yes, there's a possibility for that. I am still trying to figure out, and me and my team are trying to figure out the viabilities, especially when you start making a wall, or rather going vertical, the dynamics change compared to horizontal. And so those are some of the things we're trying to work around. But yes, it can be done.
All right. Karen, I think also to ask in terms of businesses, because if I hear you right, the call is across businesses, institutions, individuals, homes in the country to be able to at least have an interest in looking at this plastic for the purpose of recycling. Apart from the actual hands-on work that needs to be done, how far then would the attitude shift be necessary in all of this to say that we're trying to get businesses to be more sustainable, we're trying to protect the environment at the same time, as opposed to the nitty-gritty doing? It seems to me that a lot has to shift in the mental behavior of a lot of businesses, households, individuals. Where would this come about? How would this come about?
Sorry, I lost you for a little bit. Your question was around the awareness of how much mind shift change.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a few things. Yes, you need behavioral change, and therefore we actually need to make sure that everyone understands that what we dispose, or what we call waste, is that really waste? Why do we label it as waste? So we have to start rethinking about waste, again, as materials. They're just materials in the wrong place, is what we would say. They ended up because we can't use it anymore, but it's still the same material. Plastic is a plastic if it ends up in the environment. So we need a big mind shift about around that. This is not waste. It might be waste to me because I can't use it anymore. Then someone else uses it, or can I still do something with it, or can I dispose it somewhere where someone else can reuse it or recycle it? And again, that will make us aware that, it's an input. We're taking a resource, we're making something out of it, and then we throw it away. Is that really necessary? And that's the mind shift we need. The other mind shifts we need is that we need to understand what kind of materials are we using. So maybe labeling on products where you say this is a recycled product, or it has recycled material inside, or we don't throw it away because we can still recycle it, or you can reuse it. So people should also become aware of what you can still do with it then. So we have to make the material and the quality of the material very clear to consumers. And the other thing is that obviously you need to be able to dispose it responsibly, and that's still lacking. Like, where do you now separate your waste? Where do you now leave your recyclables? how can you really manage that on a household level? And you need to start separating at source, but then you also need to have the infrastructure that you can bring it to a site that's already dealing with separated waste. So that's what we're currently working on, and that's happening on a few places in the country. For instance, in Nairobi Metropolitan, there we start with having sites, dump sites, which are not dump sites, but they're sorting sites, and the waste is separated. And that will allow us to recycle much more if that's what you want to do with that product.
Who's developing these sorting sites, for example, in the Nairobi Metropolitan? Is it the government, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, or the manufacturers, the producers?
Now, the manufacturers are not designing those sites. That's a government initiative, and they will be helped and supported by different stakeholders and NGOs and civil society, and also with input from the manufacturers, but that's not their responsibility to have that. The responsibility of the manufacturer is to make sure that the plastics they bring into society, they are able to collect it back and to take it back. So they have a high stake in developing sorting sites and having the proper collectors in place, but it's not them setting it up.
As a sustainable, inclusive business, you've been involved extensively with the coming up with these regulations, the extended producer responsibility regulations, also coming up to promote the circular economy, as you've been saying. When I see organizations such as Jijenga Makers and Nzambi Mate coming up, I see an opportunity where then the producers should be able to support such organizations in coming up and also supporting them in marketing their activities. So, for example, if you look at this small organization started by Nzambi Mate, and this is what they are doing, they're making the Jijenga pavers, they need a market and they need the source of the raw material. I can see where the extended producer responsibility comes in and gives them a good source of material, but where do they sell the pavers? How do you support such organizations?
Yeah, we provide linkages and we share knowledge and we bring people together. So that's what we mainly do. And what we also then do is why would you link up people together? What is the value in that potential relationship? And I agree with you. It's a very good idea to link people and to make sure that you all work together in this. We see that happens a lot already with big companies like we have the Decathlon that is really carefully selecting their carton and selecting their plastics and making sure it ends up with recyclers in the country. So they make those resources available, and that's coming up more and more. The private sector is very active in finding their partners, but it also has to be sufficient for the amount of plastics or the amount of waste they have and specific waste stream. And I think, yes, it needs to be encouraged. Having said that, there's one thing I want to highlight, because those initiatives and those businesses and business developments, those we need. They fall into the category of innovation and circulation in a circular economy. However, there are some things that we should not sometimes keep the demand up for a product that we then only recycle back in something else. It might not solve the issue. So if we keep on using single-use plastics, just reuse something for 1 second, then thereafter it might end up in a construction material, which is great because there's nothing else at the moment we can do with those kind of cheap packaging materials. But we don't stop the demand for us to have cheap packaging material to use for a very short period of time. So the question should be, is this the most clever use of resources, even if you upcycle it later?
There's something that I would like to know. Even as you progress in developing this clearly useful product, how fast do you think you'll be able to move in getting the construction industry and those who might use it to accept it. And if you were to look into the future, of course, this is crystal balling, of course, but what percentage of the industry that uses such products do you hope to occupy?
You're asking me the products.
Yes, I'm asking, since you are in that business of producing a product that goes into the construction industry, already there are products that already are in use and you're providing an alternative. And I'm asking, that alternative, what percentage of the already existing market do you hope in the future to occupy? What are you aiming towards?
Okay, but you're asking Jenga makers, I think, and not me. It's not my product. So is she still around to answer that question?
She isn't there, but there's a reason why I'm asking you this. You see, if given the role that you have, and given that you support this sort of industry, then it means you must have a place where you think this particular product will fit into. That's really what I'm asking. Where will it fit into?
Yeah, I think okay. Yes, I understand. So what is great about reusing and cycling products in this way is that it should contribute that we have still materials. They were in use, and you can still use them. So we're actually saving resources, and we could turn it into affordable housing. So affordable construction is high on the wish list of Kenya in terms of the Big Five agenda. So, or is it 4? So it does fit into, for instance, affordable housing. It does fit in that if we keep on reusing materials, it should become more available, more accessible, and more affordable to actually have infrastructure and housing that is there for everyone. And other companies are doing the same. There's a lot of plastics that are very hard to reuse again or reuse for the same purposes, and they will be converted into building sheets. And that could be a solution for a lot of informal settlements, etc., to actually improve the quality of life.
Well, thank you very much. Karine Boonsma is the Director of Sustainable Inclusive Business with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. And thank you very much for the good job that you're doing in trying to, bring the industry together to think sustainable and to think circular economy. Asante sana for joining us this morning. And also thank you very much to Nzambi Mate. She's the founder of Jijenge Makers Limited, who are making this plastic waste and transforming them into Jijenge pavers. Asante sana, ladies, and we wish you a good day.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
28 minutes after 7, time for us to take a break on KTN Home, Spice FM and online. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
This February, Sarit Your City brings you Seasons of Love From the 4th to the 14th of February, explore and celebrate love at our new complex, where we shall have special activities for your loved ones and family, including a Valentine's fair, Sana art display, couples photo booth, and love wheel. What's more, you can enjoy a variety of local and international retailers, restaurants, eateries, and entertainment facilities such as cinemas and a bowling alley for a fun and wholesome experience. Tune in to Spice Drive with Monique from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday for more information. Plus, the chance to win dinner vouchers at Sarit, your city.
All right, still cloudy conditions in Nairobi is what we are seeing today. There's a high chance of rain coming in later on. We are going to see highs of 23 today and lows of 17. Taking a look then into Nyeri, it's partly sunny at 14, highs of 24. Highs of 26 in Nakuru, partly sunny conditions at the moment at 15. 15 is what it is in Eldoret and sunny, highs of 23. Rain showers now in Kisumu at 21, going to highs of 29. We're looking at light rain in Kakamega this morning at 16, highs of 29 and lows of 18. Mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 26, highs of 32. Also looking at highs of 31 in Malindi, mostly cloudy at the moment at 27. Kampala is cloudy at 23, highs of 27 and lows of 20. And Dar es Salaam, light rain this morning at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 27. Mostly sunny conditions in Johannesburg at 16, highs of 25. Cloudy conditions in Lagos at 27, highs of 34 and lows of 26. And rounding it out for now in Kinshasa, mostly cloudy conditions, a chance of rain, highs of 33 and lows of 24.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth
right,
jazz,
so if you're wondering why there's traffic on the
neo.
southern bypass now, there has been an accident right around Kibra going towards Langata Road, and that's the cause of the traffic that you're seeing this morning. Before that, the southern bypass was your option to get into the city centre or out towards Gong Road, but things are slowed down considerably because of that. Hopefully that will be sorted out so we can continue on our journeys this morning. Looking at Thika Road, getting into the city, the Pakani Tunnel is what is a bit slow this morning. Kiambu Road is not so bad today. I think we need to applaud that one. Coming then into the city from Mombasa Road, it's very slow, right around the SGR towards Cabanas. As usual in the morning, slows down around Bellevue, gets to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and opens up just a little bit before you get onto Hulu Highway. So we said we're going to look at Jogo Road, right? Going towards Landys Road at the roundabout at the city stadium, it slows down considerably, but getting into the CBD will not be too painful, at least not for now. We're in the middle of traffic hour right now. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. Talk to us, however, on Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 37
Mornings
minutes
done right.
The Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home Online. In the room this and every weekday morning is C.T. Muga, Ndu Oko, and Eric Latif. We're having a conversation now about what we saw coming out of the judiciary yesterday. The Chief Registrar of the Judiciary released and published the names of the people who had applied for the position of Chief Justice and also for the position of the vacant seat in the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya. A number of people who have applied for these positions have come out, and now it's been covered in the paper. So we are basically moving closer and closer to that thing, that stage of identifying the next Chief Justice of the Republic. CT, when we were discussing this earlier, you said one of the things that you would be very keen to see is what, apart from somebody's gender and region where they come from, what exactly is it that they'll be looking out for? What is this characteristic that is required of somebody who becomes the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, the head of the judicial arm of government, and the president of the Supreme Court?
Actually, why I raise this is because when I was reading about the requirements for this particular office, as would be expected, their general requirements.
Yep.
But what now made me think about this was when I looked at the duties that a Chief Justice has, all right? There are very many, and There is none that is not serious, okay? He presides over the Supreme Court. Easy to understand. Gives directions on which associate judges are to preside over cases. Okay? Gives directions, meaning he states, okay? He's the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission. He leads in setting policies for administration of justice and running of the judicial arm, okay? He's actually the administrative head of the judiciary, though the chief registrar is the one who actually runs it on the day-to-day basis. He also presides over the swearing in of the president. Now, some of these may be called ceremonial, but if you look at these duties, I ask myself, so what sort of person would you need to have who would carry out these duties as is required? I said, if you look at the ceremonial ones, it's you, given the position you're in, presiding over it. But the administrative ones, that is where my mind started doing the TikToking. Yes.
So from the administrative side, and this is, for example, if it's setting up benches of the High Court, determining which judges to sit to listen to specific matters.
Yes.
As chair of the Judicial Service Commission, you're also in charge of looking at the career progression of the judicial officers, all the way from magistrates to judges of the Court of Appeal. So you are involved in all these things. So, so basically, you need to be a good manager.
First of all, it's a very powerful position, just so that we understand it. Secondly, apart from just being a good manager, it's an understanding not just of the law, but the practice of it, because when you're determining who should preside over what, I believe it would have to do with, does this person have a specific speciality in his training that would make the person favorable? For instance, if we're discussing something to do with the Kenya Ports Authority, you need, and you want a 3-bench judge or 5...
Judge bench.
What do I call it?
Bench judge.
Have I not mentioned bench and judge in the same
so it suffices.
So
okay.
Why are you asking for... Okay. 5...
Order doesn't matter.
3 or 5, that thing,
Judges
the bench and the
bench.
judge, that one. Okay. Should I look for at least a judge who has a background in marital matter? Maritime. Is that day, is it?
It's important also, that marital that you're talking about.
All right.
It's okay.
If the issue at hand is one that has to do with properties, do I want a judge whose area of speciality is in conveyancing and someone who understands property laws better than others? If I'm looking at commercial interests, am I looking at a judge? Now, that means, apart from just knowing who your judges are, but you need to know the area of their speciality and their abilities. That can't be easy. Because therein lies the possibility of being accused of either favoritism or being someone who more or less predetermines an outcome because you're the one who chooses. But in the term of the immediate former Chief Justice, one didn't hear that. One didn't hear that as a complaint. Now, in his administration, there's something, the main things he did, but the thing that stood out for me is when the Judicial Service set up on their own a system that audits their abilities and their functions. Eric, you really must get over this marital thing. It was maritime.
Okay. I'll get there.
That was my thinking. And that's why I raised the question, because the basic requirement that the person must have practiced law or must be involved in judicial processes, that one you'll find many, many justices who qualify.
The basics are, of course, you're a lawyer, number one.
Yes. And
By
you must
training.
understand processes
And
and
an
blah, blah,
advocate
blah.
of the High Court of Kenya. And then, if you've served in the judiciary for 15 years as a judge of a superior court, or the experience as a distinguished academic, judicial officer, legal practitioner, or such experience in other relevant legal field, 15 years as well, then you qualify to apply.
Yes.
So those 13 that have applied, they have looked at themselves and like, 13 peke yake.
They have those basics.
I can give you 33.
Yes.
So they have the basics. Now, when it comes now to the Judicial Service Commission, first of all, shortlisting, because they've got to shortlist from these 13, some of the considerations they'll be looking at maybe are those that you're talking about. And then they'll also be looking at, okay, so we want to balance out maybe the issue of when now they come to choosing, they'll now play the ping pong game, the political game of the gender and the region, but the people already have that basic qualification of you have requisite experience to serve as a judge of the Superior Court, of the Supreme Court, and you can also be the president of that court.
One of the things that you see in many countries, what we call the first world countries, they usually pick their chief justice and people who fall into the category of judges you want in the Supreme Court from people who've been judges.
Yeah.
They don't play any games with it. And usually somebody who's been at the level of a court of appeal.
And why that happens is that you will see by the time somebody has gotten to the level of a court of appeal judge, there's a certain amount of experience and exposure that they then have. There are certain kinds of decisions that they've had to make repetitively. There are different kinds of experiences that have come across their table. So by the time somebody gets to that point, they're not a wishy-washy individual. Right? The decisions that they're going to make, and those decisions hold merit. The experiences that they're going to have presided over, or the instances that they're going to have presided over, that actually requires not just your run-of-the-mill decision-making. It's a thought process that has gone into it. It's experience that has allowed them to make that kind of decision. And it's not just a one-time decision that has been made. It's over and over and over and over again, things that have been brought before them. So obviously, for me, I would be looking at an individual who has this wealth of experience, because by the time they're making decisions, by the time they're making appointments, by the time you look at their experiences, this is, like you say, the 33, we have 35 in terms of years of experience. We've done this over and over again. So we're not just somebody who is a pushover, but at the same time, somebody who would be able to stand behind a decision, and their character is one of the pillars now that would be necessary for that decision making to take place. Looking at what they can do in terms of a job description, also, I think it would be necessary to have somebody who understands where the country is at this point, who understands what has been happening, and either somebody who is very clear on their position, whether they're really interested in reinstituting and maintaining the independence of the judiciary, sanitizing it from the stain that has been on it in terms of it being a bottleneck when it comes to the expansion of justice, etc., etc. And I think it has to be somebody who's very clear in their stance from that point. Because there have been so many things that have been thrown, so many things that have been said over and over and over again, and from people who are even within the system who see it to be true. So it would need somebody then who was ready to come and champion those causes.
I think what you've just said, finally, there will be the main thing. This is, I feel it's going to be a seriously political process. In terms of qualifications to apply, all of them meet those qualifications.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of everything else, does this person then have the requisite temperament to run the judiciary, to be the head of this institution? They'll be looking at those ones and saying, okay, yeah, this one, yes, maybe this one is too radical, this one insults other lawyers. This one. They may look at that. But when it comes down to that wire, after they've eliminated one or two who they feel are too much on the left or on the right, it's now coming down to the politics. First of all, the retirement age of the president of the Supreme Court is 70.
70.
You don't want a judge who's going to sit there for 20 years.
No.
So get a judge somebody who is as close to the 70 as possible, so that you can now, they are only there for 10 years max. Then I think they're going to start looking at now those political safe pair of hands. This person who's in charge of this institution, how are they going to relate with the other arms of government? How are they going to relate with the political players in the executive and the parliament, the legislature? That will play a very big role. And that's why if you look at the people who are commenting and saying, okay, so-and-so, maybe this and the other, it's not about whether the person can be, can do all those things of administration. We've moved away from that. And I think the first interviews that were conducted for the CJ that picked Dr. Willy Mutunga, there because of the pressure, this is the first president of the Supreme Court of Kenya. This is the first time that a Chief Justice is actually now being selected openly and publicly. We're going to look at your character. We're going to look at what you think in terms of law and where your standing is in law and several matters. We are trying to play that game. Second time, it wasn't that much. This third time, it will shift more into the politics of it. And I think we'll look at a judge who is as close to 60, within their 60s or as close to 60. And we'll look at a judge who is from a region that is now seeing, okay, so this region, we are balancing it all out. You may actually hear some people saying the game of balancing is going to be played out. If, for example, Nyanza gets the Chief Justice, then the president can come from this other. That whole thing of which tribe runs what at the top.
Actually,
it's going to come in and play.
That balance is always there. I mean, it's foolhardy to pretend it doesn't. It always does. Because even if you look at the county system, where you think all these people in this place speak the same language. Oh, no. Language notwithstanding, people become clannish and they say,
This one is speaker. No, this one is governor. This is deputy. Speaker,
okay.
Therefore, must be
senator.
This woman rep.
This. Yes,
we've got to balance it out.
The division of spoils, it plays a very, very important role in all these things, and people want that balance to be there. And they even go further and say, if this is what you have now, next round,
yes.
Doesn't it just kind of take away from this whole notion? I mean, all these things that we are saying, because now when we're introducing now the card of where you're from, you're trying to balance it out in gender, this, that, the other thing. Doesn't it kind of take away from the very thing that sets this sector apart, which is independence? So I'm not just looking at it as independence from executive or independence from the rest of government, but independence from all these other things that seem to mar appointments like this. That it kind of does that. It kind of muddies the waters. Now we said to say this must come into play. This must come into play. To me, it removes some of that quote unquote independence.
How does it remove
the pedestal that a judge of the Superior Court or the Chief Justice of the Republic should? This is judge. This is completely independent or not encumbered by all these other strings.
It shouldn't come. The whole gender card shouldn't play here.
This is a judge.
The tribal card shouldn't play here.
He's not a Kisii.
Exactly.
He's not a Kimeru.
It shouldn't matter where you're from. It shouldn't matter whether you're female or male. And that's what I'm saying. It should be independent, not just in how they operate, but also independent also in the appointments, to say that really because at the end of the day, when you're looking at justice, hoping for this, you're looking at the absence of partiality. You're looking for independence truly. So I'm saying through and through, that independence should come through.
If we were to look at impartiality, the one place where you would expect it would be the church. And even there, this same logic that we're talking about here comes into play.
Yes.
Even when the synod or whatever high body that decides, they will sit and ask, okay, folks,
the other one, the previous one
was from. It will come into play. It's folly and pretense to say it doesn't. By the way, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't say it doesn't. I said it shouldn't.
In an ideal world,
that's how we should be playing it out.
It ought to be. But human nature being what it is, what is ideal about human nature is the idea of being fair is balancing it. That's how people say, okay, now since when we balance it, then everybody gets a chance.
Yeah. Everybody feels, okay, this one is okay. Look at, for example, the appointment of Willie Mutunga, okay? So when Willie Mutunga was appointed as Chief Justice, there was no issue of, tribe, because he was not from the Mount Kenya tribes, right? But, and he has told us this himself, when he started going round, setting up courts, what would people tell him? He goes to Kitui and they tell him, sasa unajua hapa lazima utuwekee koti yetu bwana sisi wa kwetu. They had to bring in that you are one of us. And he was trying to distance himself and telling them, I am the Chief Justice of the Republic. I've got to ensure that we set up courts across the Republic.
They understand that very well.
But
since you're one of us,
start with us.
Look at this recent incarceration of the immediate former governor of Nairobi.
Yeah.
What then happened? It began with a statement that one former vice president
Kalonzo
made. Then then did you see? A coalition of senior politicians and politicians from that particular region coalescing behind this person.
And visiting him.
Suddenly this man whom we've touted here in this show and told us, if you're talking about an untribal person, is this one here. He may not have wanted it, but suddenly people who come from his ethnic background coalesced together and said, this is our son. Which means they were happy with the idea that one of their own was the governor of Nairobi. I am saying it is something we are never going to run away from. Not we can't run away from. You listen to the word, never going to run away from.
We're not going to run away from this.
No. We may tone it down,
we
but
can
we're
look
never
at
gonna
these
run away
people.
from
We
it.
can see, yes, Professor Patricia Kameri Mbote is a respected lawyer. She teaches at the university. She's taught law. She's taught very many people here.
Lovely stuff.
But we'll think of Kameri Mbote,
And
Meru.
okay.
Then we look at, so this one is Eastern. Then we'll also look at, so we also have Lady Justice, who? Martha Koome, another Eastern. This is how we're going to look at it.
Look at Professor Moni Wekesa.
Daniel Marete, another Eastern.
Moni
Matthew
Wekesa,
Derry,
Western.
Then Wekesa, Western.
Done.
Said Chitembwe, Coast. And then we look at
Believe
Fred
me.
Ngatia, Central. All right? Then we look at Philip Mulgore, North Rift. Otinga Mare. This is how it's going to be looked at.
You can be the best qualified. If unfortunately someone who you may not even know comes from your region and they say in high position in government, that's it. The person is speaker. The person is a deputy president. The person is a minister. No, you guys have already had your turn.
Yeah, you
You've
have
been
had
represented.
it. You've taken it.
Let somebody else be represented.
Okay. So now if you try to balance it out, then you will say that the Speaker of the National Assembly is from Eastern. So the Chief Justice should not be
from Eastern.
Oh, good grief.
Yes. Look, my dear. Look at First World.
I don't know.
In the recent past, we had the United States of America, which has been for the longest term the bastion of all things democratic. When they were choosing a member of the Supreme Court to replace the lady who had passed away, the lady justice who had passed away, it was known that they were going to choose somebody who they thought was conservative leaning. They didn't even doubt it.
It wasn't, there was no discussion.
No, there was no, they knew it because they knew we had a liberal here, and we know how things go when you have a liberal judge. So, how many conservative justices do we have? This number. Let's add one more. Look. The way you arguing it out, good. It's just that if you want that to go away, then remove the political process from it. But even if you do, you can't remove the thinking.
The thinking of the public.
Yes, you can't remove it. You can't.
I do think there can be behavioral change. I think there can be a mental shift. I think so. Because I think that the merits far outweigh what we've been seeing here. The possibility of being able to get away from all of this. Because even if we're talking about being a balance, even when there's a balance, you choose somebody from here, you still have a bunch of people who are feeling that they've been left out.
Yes.
Regardless of whether you say it's going to come tomorrow.
There's
so
always
that
gonna
chance
be
comes tomorrow, there is a number of people who are still feeling left out. It doesn't matter. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it'll take time. But even here, as we are in this present moment, if we continue saying, this is how things are, this is what is to be expected, this is how, that's just the way it's going to be.
You know.
A thought is just that before it becomes action and before it becomes practice. It all started here.
You know it's also in the law. Regional balance is in the law. It is right there in the law. We've got to make sure that our appointments reflect the true face of the Republic of Kenya. So it's not that it's something. We are alive to this.
It's a reality that we know we have to
We've
live
even
with.
put it in the law and said regional balance is something that we shall consider. So everything
if
else,
if
yes.
it is in the law,
all
it
of
is
you
prescribed,
qualify, yes.
If it is prescribed as a matter of principle, then why is it still such a sticky issue?
Well, because everyone wants one on their own there.
I
That's
know,
why it's a
but the law
sticky
has
issue.
told you.
The law has told you you've got to
that you
regionally.
have to do it like this.
But that's it.
Yeah, so that you're sticking to that. So
That's
it
what
doesn't
we're
matter.
saying.
So that's what I'm saying. So if it continues to be a bone of contention, and you're saying according to the law, then everybody should relax now. Why are you having a problem? Because you know the law says you must do this.
Yes.
The law says certain things,
When
and
it
you're going
says-
to abide by them regardless.
This
So you
is
can't
it,
bring
Ndu.
your emotion
So
into
with
it.
regional balance, what you're saying is you've got to look at not all senior positions of the country coming from one community or one region. All right? So you've got to balance it out regionally. You've got to look and see. So this is Ekwe Othuro. He's Turkana. He is Speaker of the Senate. This is Justin Muturi. He is from Eastern. He's Speaker of the National. You've got to look at that.
All right.
So
look.
here we are. We have President Central. Deputy President, Rift Valley. Speaker of the National Assembly, Eastern. Speaker of the Senate, Western. Chief Justice was Nyanza. Now, tell us.
Why do you think the BBI is introducing all these plum jobs at the top? So that regional balance can have more space. Look, but in your part of the world, you have South this time, North next time, in terms of presidency.
Regional balance.
Yeah,
Let's take a break.
Nobody's going to be thinking about it tomorrow. I don't know.
Let's take a break at this point. This conversation continues. We want to take a break on KTN Home at 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be back shortly with the conversations. Remember, in the next hour, we are talking about retirement and retirement benefit schemes, celebrating 20 years of Retirement Benefits Authority and seeing what work has been done in retirement benefits and entrenching the issue of getting benefits for our retirees and also the payouts. So we'll have that conversation, but we'll finish up on this matter of the next Chief Justice and the expectations of the Republic of Kenya, the citizens of the Republic of Kenya. Good morning. 4 minutes to 8.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, 4 minutes
Spice
to 8.
up your life.
Your conversation continues right here. So the two positions that to be filled in the Supreme Court, one is the president of that court and the other one is a judge of the Supreme Court of Kenya. So if you look at now the applicants, the 13 who have applied for the position of Chief Justice, and then some of them have also applied for position of judge of the Supreme Court of Kenya. We have said the number of applicants here who would be said, I'm actually looking at it myself, and I'm seeing the number of applicants from Eastern in this list. It's quite high. Maybe it's telling. Maybe it's telling. For example, in the Court of Appeal judges who have applied for the position of Supreme Court judge include Justice Martha Koome, Justice Kathrima Mutoinoti, we've got Marete, we've got Patricia Kameri Mbote. These ones want to that position. That issue of regional balance, the issue of age, how close are you to retirement so that then you can give us an opportunity to appoint somebody else? How close are you to the powers that be as well? They'll play a part. And unfortunately, we have moved away from that part. What you're saying, Ndu, the appointment of the first president of the Supreme Court, that one, all the attention was on it, on what are you guys doing? How are you going to pick the Chief Justice? Previously, the Chief Justice was just the prerogative of the president who wakes up and decides, Muga, chukua hiyo kiti. This time, it's different. There's a constitution. So we're looking at how this was going to be conducted. First time. Second time, we're looking at how. And then there was a whole issue of, the first Chief Justice, because he was not somebody who had served in the judiciary. He did not understand the system, did not understand the plight of the judicial officers who work there. And that brought in the whole conversation of let's promote somebody from within the system. This particular time, I'm telling you, politics is going to be the one that runs the day.
Well,
everything else be damned. It's going to be about, the politics of it. Where are we? What's the politics of the day? Where does this person come from? What do we want to see with the judiciary going forward? What kind of decisions are they likely to make? They're coming in to head the Supreme Court during the 2022 elections. What are we likely to see? The lessons that we take from 2017, all those things will come in handy. Okay. So keep it right here. We are on Spice FM. We are on KTN Home. And we are online. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And you can also post in your comments on all these conversations that we're having. In the next hour, like I said, we'll be having a conversation about the Retirement Benefits Authority, trying to understand what the RBA does. Remember, this is the regulator of retirement benefits in the country, and all the other retirement benefit schemes that you contribute to are all regulated by this particular one body, the Retirement Benefits Authority. We'll be speaking with the Chief Executive Officer of RBA in the coming hour. We'll also encourage you to ask any questions that you may have of him. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, first on Nakuru this morning, all the way from all stops, bumper to bumper situation here, all the way into the CBD. It is not moving, guys. The accident that happened on the southern bypass as you're getting to Kibra, going towards Langata Road, is the cause of the traffic jam on the southern bypass now. It's snaking along and has joined all the way at Mombasa Road today. So if you're planning to use the southern bypass, understanding that might take you some time, and you might want to stick to Mombasa Road as you get then to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then out into the CBD. All the way to Westlands is what we see as traffic this morning. So Thika Road, that one also. The diversion still exists right around Kangemi, so we know that that's going to be there for a couple of days. You need to be able to plan ahead. Use the Red Hill bypass coming out of Westlands, guys. It's your best bet, at least for the next few days. Lunga Likoni, we still see that issue there in industrial area. Once you do get out to the City Stadium roundabout, you should be fine getting onto Landis Road and into the CBD. So everywhere you look, there's pockets of trouble here and there. As far as traffic is concerned, one thing though, you must be careful and talk to us if you need to. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Thursday morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's
only way to start your
o'clock.
day.
A very good morning to you and welcome to the third hour of the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are on KTN Home. We are online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And we are also on Spice FM across the country. Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri and Malindi. We begin this, like we begin every hour, with the day's proverb.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, then all get tired.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired,
then all get tired.
All get tired.
The only participant in this process that doesn't get tired is the animal being hunted. Can't afford to get tired. Can't afford to get tired, yes.
So we can actually even say, if the leader of the hunting party gets tired, the prey celebrates.
Yes, indeed. The prey has a party.
Yeah, the prey has a party.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Retirement Benefits Authority. And we're now joined by the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority, Nzomo Mutuku, MBS, Moran of the Burning Spear. Heshima, Bwana Muga, heshima.
No, not just heshima, maximum heshima.
Yes. Maximum.
I mean, they don't just sell those things in the marketplace where you can say, nataka MBS tatu. Okay.
I told you, imeisha. Hata mtu wa mwisho alikuwa hapa, Nzomo Mutuku, amechukua.
Yes. No. It's something that you actually have to earn.
Yes.
They don't just dish them out.
Indeed.
Yes.
Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for inviting me to the station room. I'm very happy to be here.
Asante sana, welcome. We call that the hot seat. We've just warmed it up nicely for you so that you can enjoy the conversation as we continue. Tell us about the RBA. You're celebrating 20 years of growing the sector, of regulating the sector, of making sure that Kenyans' retirement benefits are safeguarded. Tell us about the work that you've done so far.
Yes, thank you. It's been an exciting journey over the last 20 years. RBA was created in an act of parliament called the Retirement Benefits Act, which was passed in 1997 but commenced in 2000. So actually 2020 was our 20th year in October, but we are celebrating the 20th anniversary for 1 year, up to June this year. It's been an exciting journey. We have seen a lot of growth in the industry. When we started, the industry was small. It was less than 100 billion shillings in assets. Today, we are at 1.3 trillion in terms of assets. The industry was only covering around 12% of the labor force. Today, we have grown it up to 22% of the labor force. So good growth and very impressive compared to most African countries, but of course, still a lot of room for more, bringing more people on board. As RBA, our mandate is to, as you say, regulate and supervise pension schemes. We have over 1,250 pension schemes that we supervise. We also have a mandate to protect the members of those schemes. So we do consumer protection. If they have any challenges, with their schemes, they come to us, we assist them. We also have a mandate to develop, and that's why we have talked about the growth over the years. And we also have a mandate in terms of policy and implementing government policies in this area. So it has been a good 20 years, but we still have a lot to do to make sure all Kenyans are really covered for their retirement.
Anytime I come across the RBA, my mind automatically moves to NSSF. Before you came into the studio, Eric had made this quip, because if you look at my beard, then I am the sort of person who would want to talk greatly about the NSSF and the benefits thereof. But what I want to ask you is this. You've explained generally what the RBA does, but now tell me, how exactly does the RBA's functions benefit the majority of Kenyans who have been employed and whose scheme is with the NSSF?
Yes, NSSF is one of the schemes that we regulate, one of the 1,250 that I mentioned. NSSF, of course, has had a difficult history. Before we came, there were a lot of issues. Even after we came, there was a period where they were exempted from complying with our requirements. So we have not been with them for so long. But nevertheless, over the time that they have been required to comply with RBA requirements, we have seen a huge improvement in the NSF operations. If you look at their investments, for example, when RBA came, they had something like 70% of their assets in real estate, which was a very risky portfolio and which also had issues of liquidity and so on. Today, NSF is, compliant with our regulations, which require only a maximum of 30%. So they are 20-something%. So they have come all the way from 70 to 20% to comply with our regulations. NSF now has annual general meetings where members can come and raise concern. NSF issues statements. If you dial star 303 hash on your phone, you can get your statements and so on. These are things that have never used to happen. And even in terms of a lot of the governance issues, we have seen a lot of improvement in governance. The scandals which used to be there in the past, you don't get them nowadays because, the way our regulatory framework is. For example, in investments, we require all schemes, including NSSF, to have independent fund managers who are professional investment experts. So the days where the scheme itself would invest and you would have all kinds of issues are long gone. They have appointed fund managers. They have 6 fund managers. These are companies which are experts in investment. They have also appointed custodians. These are banks which keep the assets so that the assets are safe. So not just for NSF, for all the schemes that we regulate, we have a very strong regulatory framework which has all these checks and balances. So, for example, the investment decisions are done by a fund manager who is a professional licensed by us, also licensed by CMA, Capital Markets Authority. The assets are kept by a custodian, who is a different person, who is a bank licensed by Central Bank to do custody business, so that nobody can reach the assets. And then the scheme must invest in accordance with guidelines which we have issued, including the 30% maximum I gave on real estate investments, and other requirements to ensure diversification. So yes, we all know NSF had checkered past, but I also want to assure members now that because of the requirement to comply with RBA regulations, they are now a very different institution.
Dovetailing from that question, because what I would really like to know, because I'm sure there are very many of our listeners who have reached that mandatory age of retirement, and they would like to know, with all the streamlining that has taken place, and with all the, should we say, the lay-down procedures that people have for accessing their dues, is it something that someone who has reached that mandatory age, are they assured that they can actually go to NSSF or reach them through whatever portal that exists, and that they will be served as is stipulated?
Yes, because the law requires pension schemes to pay people who retire within 30 days, all schemes, including NSSF. So if for any reason you have not been paid within the required period, that is why you come to us, because we are there to protect, like I said, we have the consumer protection mandate. So you can file a complaint with us, and you don't even have to come physically to us, because we have a complaints portal, which is on our website. We have an app. You can download the app and you can file your complaint through the app, or you can reach us on our toll-free numbers and so on. So you can use these channels, or you can, of course, you can also come to office if you want, and we can assist you there. You can use these channels to file a complaint, and we take it up on your behalf, and we'll make sure that you're paid your due benefits. So this is for all the schemes, including NSSF.
So a couple of years ago, there was a robust movement by the RBA to really get Kenyans to think about the future and to say, the opportunities for you to make sure that you're nestled in comfort. Why was that after some time? Moving away from the regulatory position and to really encourage Kenyans to make sure that the future is not a rainy one. Why was that push specifically at that time?
Yes. Traditionally, pension schemes have been kind of for people in the formal sector. You find a company like, here, Standard Media Group, they have a pension scheme for their staff. And, most companies, they do that. But there was this large group that we were leaving out, and this is the group in the informal sector, which is also where we have a lot of the youth. So we made a conscious effort, and it is in our new strategic plan that we are currently implementing, that we need to give more focus to the informal sector. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because I really want to reach out to, because I know for Muga, you're not my target group. my target group is the younger people, because I want them to start saving now, so that by the time they reach your age, they are they're very comfortable. So we have been making an effort here. You're absolutely right. We have been making an effort to reach out to the informal sector, to reach out to the youth. And, there are three aspects to that. One is this, talking about it, sensitizing people about why and how they can save for retirement. Two was making sure that, the regulatory framework and the laws also accommodate the informal sector, which we have done. And the third one is what I mentioned earlier, which is leveraging on technology, particularly mobile phone technology, so that when you're in the informal sector, you don't have a payroll, you may not even have a bank account, which is what we traditionally use in pension schemes, but you're able to join a scheme just from your phone by dialing, a number like the one I gave. You're able to register for a scheme, you're able to make contributions, you're able to get, statements through the same phone, you're even able to attend AGMs and so on, all through the phone, which makes it very easy for somebody to join. So I think technology has helped us a lot because before, the structures were very rigid, but now we're able to reach out to anybody to save for retirement.
What's the uptake? I mean, if you're looking across the country, informal sector, like you said, largest part of the workforce in the country. What's the uptake now in terms of people planning for the future? Are people getting more excited about it, taking up what is on offer?
Yes, we had very good response. When we started this back in 2019, the coverage rate was below 20%. Now we have gone up to 22%. So we had very good response. And what we would do is we would go out to the grassroots. Traditionally, maybe you see RBA in the more formal settings, the newspapers and the TV and so on. But now we go to the grassroots. We go to vernacular stations. We go to markets, and we talk to people directly. And when we go there, we go together with them. The service provider, because we ourselves, of course, are the regulators, so people are not joining us. So we have to go with the schemes themselves so that people can join can join the schemes. So we had very good uptake, but unfortunately when the COVID pandemic came, first of all, we had to stop those activities, so we have not been going to the field since then. And second, of course, with the economic disruption, it became very difficult to push the message of joining a scheme.
Sure.
But ironically, one of the things, there's always a silver lining. One of the things which came from the COVID is that, those who had previously joined pension schemes, and let's say COVID came and they lost their jobs, because of retrenchments and so on.
Yeah.
They were able to go to those schemes and get something out, which was able to cushion them. So one of the lessons that we are saying is, look, yes, we are saving for retirement, but this pension scheme, because our law does allow you to access some of your money when you lose your job, it can also cushion you in case of these kind of shocks, like COVID, which nobody expected and which came very fast. So you look at the long term, but you also know that this is something that can also come in very handy in case of sudden shocks like a retrenchment and so on.
I think that's a lot of good education that you say you were doing, going around the country, speaking to various stakeholders, and especially going with the schemes. Do the schemes then follow up with more education? Because there could be that gap of awareness, and clearly that gap exists on awareness from this is even differentiating. This is pension scheme, this is life insurance, this is insurance, and people just getting mixed up in all of them and thinking pension is just an SSF, or pension is when you're employed and that money is deducted. But how do I contribute to pension and how can I benefit from pension? Are you seeing like there's a need for creation of more awareness on this, more education?
There's need for a lot more awareness and a lot more education. And RBA cannot do it alone. We need other players like the media, the government, and the providers to also do their role in terms of education. One of the things that we did together with other financial regulators, the central bank, the CMA, the IRA, was to develop issues to do with financial services in the curriculum. In the new CBC curriculum, which is starting now, we worked with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and we assisted them to put in place some of these measures, so that from the time one is in school, from very early in school, you start hearing some of these words in very simple terms. You start hearing what is saving, what is pension, what is insurance, and it's done, through. It's not done in a direct way. It's done in a very indirect manner, which the young people can understand. So that as they get older and they go into more, start working and so on, these are not alien concepts, and they're able to differentiate between the different products. So this is something that is coming. Of course, it will take time because the curriculum is just starting now. But as the people move up, it will really help in terms of that sort of basic financial literacy.
Have you done or have you considered including this? I'm excited about it because it's something we've talked about at great length with regards to how you inculcate a certain idea into people's mind and at what stage. Have you thought or have you done anything to ensure that even at the level of our colleges, our universities, post-secondary school institutions, have you thought of including this in?
That is the end game. We are starting from down. CBC moves from this grade 4 to grade 5. Eventually, when it will reach the university level, it will be there. So we are starting from the bottom.
May I venture to say that perhaps you may be missing out on something important here, and I'll tell you why. You see, whatever curriculum is used in teaching people at these post-secondary school institutions, they are a lot easier to change. They're a lot easier to have new ideas being introduced. Yes, just like they can introduce new courses. A subject like which involves what it is that you offer, I believe that perhaps you and your team should consider how best you can actually reach, because those are people who are closer to the job market than those in primary school. And it is not as though they would not understand the benefits that you speak of. They would. And if it starts early, certainly they would be great beneficiaries from it. My thinking.
You're right, of course. In the university, we have people who are doing things which are really related to us, like
Yes.
actuarial science or
Yes.
Bachelor of Commerce.
Yes.
So those guys, of course, they know
They know.
what you're doing. But if you are doing, engineering, you might not know anything about.
Let's start with the Bachelor of Arts.
Or Bachelor of Arts. No, but if I did Bachelor of Arts Economics.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk badly about Bachelor of Arts.
Oh, don't worry.
But,
I was studying something similar, so I was speaking about myself, really. Yes.
But you're right. As a lot of those programs, you may not really interact much with financial sector issues and
Yes.
so on. So we can. I think it's a good idea. We can see how we can work in the universities, especially the first year where they used to do some more general things. I know they used to do communication and so
Yes.
on. That could be the time to bring on board some of these issues.
Because just think of that population of people who are working towards entering the job market at whatever level. And whatever level they find themselves in, even after that education, if this idea is inculcated as part of it, more so it will become even more pertinent as they stay and as they grow in the job market. And the sooner that idea is introduced, well, the larger the population that we will reach, and the possibility of it will be enhanced.
Yeah, no, you're right. And one thing that people don't know in particular about pensions is that when you save in a pension scheme, it is actually a tax-advantaged way of saving. Mm-hmm. Because, you can save in your bank account, you can save in your SACCO, you can save in so many pyramid schemes and so on. But, the pension, first of all, it is highly regulated. I talked about the separation where you have managers and custodians and all these trustees and investment policies and so on. But it's also tax advantaged. So, when you put money into your pension scheme, it is tax deductible. So, for example, if we are two of us, we are both earning, let's say, 50,000. You put your 10,000 in your bank account, and I put my 10,000 in my pension scheme. When I'm paying KRA, I will pay tax on 40,000. The 10,000 will be deducted from the 50. But for you will pay tax on the 50,000.
On the 50.
So the 10,000 that you will have been saving will already have been taxed. So there's a lot of information that we need to get out there so that people can appreciate the value of saving for pension.
And I think then you also need to push this registered schemes, 1,250 schemes. Those are many, and they'll be able to reach out to very many people in the population using various platforms, accompanying you on the road shows, using social media, using other digital platforms, using mainstream media like ourselves to just create that awareness, which is just not just saying that you come and register, but what is a pension scheme? What are the benefits of pension scheme? Like you're saying, if it's tax deductible, if it's already giving you some tax advantage, that is one of the benefits. How much can you start contributing and how can you benefit from this? Let's continue this conversation after this short break. We're having a conversation with Nzomo Mutuku. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Retirement Benefits Authority. It was established in 2000, and this year, since October last year, they're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Retirement Benefits Authority, safeguarding retirement for Kenyans, growing and safeguarding Kenyans' retirement benefits. This is a conversation that we're having. If you've got any question that you'd like to ask the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority, we'd encourage you to post your question on our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter. At some point, we'll open up the phone lines and I'll tell you when. Keep it right here. It's 24 minutes past 8. We're live on KTN Home, on Spice FM and online. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. There's a drizzle in some parts of the city. Highs of 23 and lows of 17 today. Partly sunny conditions in Nyeri, 16, highs of 24. 26 will be the high in Nakuru, currently sunny conditions at 18. It's sunny in Eldoret at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 15. Raining now in Kisumu, 21 degrees, highs of 29. And we're looking at highs of 29 in Kakamega as well, where it's raining this morning, 19 degrees recorded at the moment. 27 degrees in Mombasa and cloudy. Highs of 32, highs of 31 in Malindi, cloudy at 28, cloudy at 20 in Kampala, highs of 27 in Dar es Salaam. Light rain this morning at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 27. And we're looking at Johannesburg, where it's sunny at 18, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Cloudy conditions in Lagos at 27, highs of 34. And we're also looking at highs of 33 in Kinshasa, and it's mostly cloudy at 25.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
All right, so the 7 bypass, not where you want to go, at least not right now. Still a bit backed up because of that accident that took place earlier. So there's still some traffic that folks are going to have to sit through, and that's outbound. Inbound, however, it's not a problem. You're going to have to join with the Mombasa Road traffic, however. So we're looking at Nyayo Stadium through to Westlands. That's moving very, very slowly today and in both directions. We still have the diversion past Kangemi. So that's moving slowly. Let's look at Lunga Lunga Likoni, where that's still closed, and you still have that diversion, so that affects traffic. Landis Road, however, looks good getting into the CBD. Coming off of Thika Road, Kiambu Road was doing very well and not so much anymore. We're now looking at a bumper-to-bumper situation as it tries to join Thika Road, and it's quite some, guys. It's quite long that we're looking at. So this one we're going to have to sit through as well. We'll let you know how things may change. Service lanes on Thika Road flowing beautifully this morning, by the way. Spice FMKE, talk to us on Twitter. Let's see how we can help out. Text as well, 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. This is a Situation Room broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi 97.7. We're also broadcasting to the world on www.spicefm.co.ke and live streaming on social media, Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. We are still live on KTN Home. This hour, we're having a conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of the Retirement Benefits Authority, Nzomo Mutuko. He is here to talk about the Retirement Benefits Authority and what it's done to safeguard Kenyans' retirement benefits. Nzomo, you're telling us about, the benefits of saving either registered, and I must add here, registered retirement benefit scheme. Maybe you'll tell us about the unregistered schemes, but also what's the advantage of saving with a registered retirement benefit scheme as opposed to other savings methods. For example, SACCOs, for example, banks, mattress, investing in CT's business, and such.
Thank you. Firstly, when you save with a registered scheme, and in terms of registration, just to be clear, all the pension schemes are registered with us. But there's normally another talk of registration, which is for tax. You can also register for the tax benefit. And that's why sometimes you hear registered and unregistered. But for you to get the tax benefit, you must be registered with RBA first. And basically everybody goes for it because it's basically a benefit to your members. So the tax, like I mentioned, there's tax benefit when you save for retirement. You get the tax deductibility on your contribution up to 20,000 that you enjoy. Pension schemes, when they invest, the income is tax-free. Other investors, they pay withholding tax and so on interest. Even when you have money in your bank, you get interest, you have to pay some tax. Pension schemes don't pay that tax. And then when you retire, up to 25,000 per month is tax-free. Lump sums up to 600,000 per month. 600,000 is tax-free. And the best part, once you reach age 65, then it's all tax-free if it's coming from a pension scheme. So there's the tax advantage, which is a big advantage over any other form of saving. Number two, the pension is a highly regulated product. We have RBA up there, which sets the rules and which regulates and supervises all the schemes. And we use what is called risk-based supervision. So for all the 1,250 schemes, we calculate their risk based on 31 parameters. These parameters are financial, they are governance. If a scheme has a lot of complaints, it will have high risk. If a scheme has low investment income, it will have high risk. If a scheme has high cost, it will have high risk. If a scheme delays in paying pension, as you mentioned, it would have high risk. And we would put a lot of attention on high-risk schemes. And then the low risk, we will not worry so much because they're running well. So they're highly regulated. And then we have all these checks and balances where they have to use a fund manager, custodian, and there's a board of trustees which oversees the scheme. Okay. Number three, pension schemes now have a lot of very exciting products which you don't get in other forms of savings. A few years ago, we introduced something called post-retirement medical fund. This is on top of saving for your retirement. You can also save for your medical through the same scheme, but medical in retirement. Because what we found is many older people, medical cost is their biggest cost.
Yep.
To make matters worse, they have all these medical issues, but when they would go for insurance, they would have a struggle to get it. Some insurers refuse to cover older people, or it was too expensive. So what we did is we came up with this product where the scheme, you save through the scheme while you're still young. You build up a separate fund for medical. When you retire, the scheme purchases for you the medical. Now the scheme is in a much stronger negotiating position than any mzee out there trying to get cover. So it's able to negotiate a low premium. It's able to take a large number of customers, so the medical provider is very happy to take that business, and therefore they negotiate a good package. And this is for the rest of your life after you retire. Okay. And this is built within the scheme.
This is brilliant. How much do I contribute to that?
The way it works is you target what kind of cover you want in retirement. Okay. And also, it also depends on how old you are. The younger, you contribute very little because you have plenty of time to contribute. If you're older, then you have to contribute more because you have less time. So the scheme will give you options and say, when you retire, what kind of cover do you want? Do you want to be going to Aga Khan? Do you want to be just going to the mission hospital and so? And then they will be able to calculate and tell you, okay, if that is what you're targeting, then this is how much you need to contribute now, given your age and all those factors. Okay. So it differs from member to member depending on their circumstance.
Looking at all these things you're taking into consideration and then saying you want to grow it, because you talked about 22%, 24%. You want to grow it in the coming years to 30% of Kenya's population that at least is protected for retirement. How will you do this?
We have to sell it to the people. Saving culture in Kenya is not very good. Saving for anything is generally very low, and that's why our gross saving rate is pretty low. It's less than 10% now. When you compare with those emerging tigers, for example, which are able to generate 25%, 30% gross saving rate. So saving rate is very low. So we need to go out there and first of all let people know why it's good to save for retirement, and we show them the benefits. Two, we need to build confidence because again Kenyans have burnt their fingers in pyramid schemes and so on. So people sometimes are reluctant to do anything. So we need to build confidence. Three, we need to make it easy for people to save because nobody wants a long process. Nobody wants to go fill forms, and definitely nobody wants that when they retire they have to go and run around looking for their money.
Or even beg for it.
No, nobody wants that kind of scenario. So we have to build that that confidence, and then we have to add these value additions that I'm talking about. Like now, the post-retirement medical is one. Another one that we have just brought just last year is on housing. If you have accumulated some good money in your pension scheme, you can actually take some of it out to buy a house before retirement age. Because another thing that we found apart from medical is that some retirees was paying rent and so on, and we've even had cases, of elder guys being evicted from their homes and so on. So it's good that when you reach retirement, at least you have your own home. So that at least you don't worry about rent. You can worry about other things, but at least rent is not one of them. So we have put it again within the scheme a structure that can enable you to get a house while you're still young, so that when you retire, you get that. So we need to have these value additions. And another area that we are really working hard on is also bundling the pension with some other financial products that I know you talked about the confusion, but sometimes it's good if you have other products that can assist you. And let me give you the example of insurance. Sometimes people have a pension scheme and then they get a shock in life, like let's say somebody passes away, and then they want to get the pension money out so that they can pay for maybe funerals or medical and so on. So if the pension was bundled with the insurance, then the pension would not be impacted. One would use the insurance part to pay for we have funeral covers, we have medical covers, we have life covers, and so on. So we are also seeing, can we perhaps bundle some of these products? Again, when we're looking at informal sector, they also get shocks in their business. Somebody is, he's having a small kiosk, and then county guys come and demolish it or something like that. And it's a shock, and he needs some urgent money to get back onto business. And again, this puts pressure on the pension side because he's saying, I have money in the pension scheme, can I get it out and, use it to get back
use
on?
it. Nitarudisha baadaye.
Nitarudisha baadaye, exactly. So again, if we can maybe bundle with credit so that one can get a quick loan and, get back on his feet and not affect the pension. So yes, we have brought on board those value additions in terms of medical and housing, but we're also looking at other areas that we can perhaps bundle with them with the pension.
Can we go back to the informal sector? Because I think the assumption is that informal sector is only the person who is pushing the cart or who is selling vegetables, but there are other people, informal sector, who are not working in a 9-to-5 job, for example. So it's across board, across cadres of society, across social strata. What does somebody need to do to say, okay, fine, they've made a decision, I want to save for my future after I retire? What do they need to do? Where do they need to go?
That's a very good question. It's not only the informal sector which is not saving. We also have people who are more or less in the formal sector who are also not saving because the schemes which are started by employers, it's not all employers who have schemes. So some people maybe only have the NSSF. They don't have other schemes. And NSSF is not going to be enough for somebody in retirement. So what they need to do is we have a category of schemes that is called individual pension plans. We have 36 of them that we have registered. So if you go, for example, to our website, you can get the list of all the 36. And information about them. Actually, from our website, you can link to their own websites. So some of these are more of the traditional schemes, which operate through you send money to them every month, maybe through your bank account and so on. Others are the ones I talked about, which are the mobile-based platforms. So with those ones, you don't need to physically or have a bank account and all that. So the IPPs is the product that we have to bring on board all these other groups. And, the other day we were talking to entrepreneurs, the young, it was called the top 35 under 35. So these are entrepreneurs who have done well at a young age. But most of them did not have any pension arrangement at all. So we were really pushing them to see how they can join one of these schemes. Sportsmen. A lot of sportsmen, we hear of sportsmen making a lot of money, but you find they don't have pension arrangements. Last year, we were very happy that we brought on board the lawyers. A lot of lawyers have sole proprietorships, just one or two people in the company. Many of them did not have pension schemes. But we worked with LSK, we worked with the association, the Welfare Association of Lawyers, and we have started a pension scheme, which is getting lawyers, so now lawyers are able to join those kind of schemes. So we have a wide variety of individual pension plans. One can find the one which suits them.
We're going to open up the phone lines now for anybody who's got a question for the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority, who's in the studio with us, Nzomo Mutuko. 0719012600. That's the number to call in. That's 0719012600. Any questions regarding pension schemes, your retirement benefits, and how you can either access any of these registered schemes, or how you can put your money in, how you can get your money out if you're having challenges. Also on social media, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Arnold Asawa says, there's a question top there, right? Please share with the RBA website so we can get more information about the Post-Retirement Medical Fund. What's the RBA website again?
That's www.rba.go.ke.
Okay.
So rba.go.ke.
Okay. Another question on this medical fund, I think, is something that people are quite interested in, and in terms of them not knowing that it was there for them to use. And so the question is, so you had mentioned that I can start saving now into the future. Does it guarantee that I will have access to this medical fund for insurance for the rest of my days, or is it on a yearly basis?
It will depend on scheme to scheme. Some schemes have negotiated to buy, cover for a longer period. Some schemes do it on annual basis. So they say this year we are getting this cover, the next year we do it, and so on. So it depends. An evolving product is very new. Not many schemes have it, but it's really picking up. For example, in our institution RBA, we have it. And not only are the employees contributing, but as an employer, I'm also contributing for the employees into the post-retirement medical fund. So even though it was a voluntary thing, I didn't force anybody. All my employees have joined 100%, and we are contributing, and they are contributing. So
your employees are the choir. They have already been converted. They can see the benefits from the get-go. Let's get to the phone lines. 0719012600. Any questions for the RBA CEO? Steve in Nairobi is on the line. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Hi, Latif.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. So I have a question to Nzomo.
Okay.
I used to work for CRBC, the one that was constructing the standard gauge railway section in Makindu. So a while back, I followed up. I used to have my NSSF being deducted. So a while back, I followed to the NSSF, and they found that the deductions were not being remitted. So NSSF were not able to assist me to follow up these deductions, because the company, since the SGR is completed, it was bundled out. So how can I get this money back to NSSF?
How can you get your reprieve? All right. He's going to answer you there, Steve. Just stay on the line. Eric is also on the line, and he has a question. Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today? You have a question for Nzomo.
Yes, I have a question for the CEO. Thank you for engaging with us on the mainstream media, especially on this important topic on retirement. My question is in relation to these lab trust funds. Perhaps maybe the CEO could shed some light on it, about how it works and whether RBA has some oversight over this love trust fund, because of the fact that they were actually existing during the defunct constitution.
Okay.
And secondly, he had also raised some issue on the tax advantages that we get from pension, investing in pension or pension savings. Maybe he could also elaborate on it.
Sawa. Thank you very much. CEO, answer those two questions.
Thank you. Those are good questions. The first one of contributions to NSSF, and the sponsor or the employer has relocated or disappeared. I think a company is a legal entity, and whether or not they have moved out, if they have liabilities in Kenya, I think those liabilities can be followed up, because the company must be headquartered, whether it's in China or wherever it is. And you cannot just take off from a country and leave liabilities behind. Probably there are also others apart from NSSF. So I think NSSF cannot say that because they have left now, the money is lost or something. No. I think it can still be followed up. What I would suggest is you file a complaint with us, a formal complaint. I mentioned that we have the portal, or you can write, or whatever means that you want. And then we can take it up.
So you can visit your offices as well and file the complaint.
Our offices, we are in Raimtula Tower.
Okay.
Lab Trust. Lab Trust is a scheme that we regulate, absolutely. Lab Trust was created way back, and it was a scheme which was catering for the local authorities before devolution, when we had the local authorities. And there were two schemes. There was Lab Trust and there was Lab Fund. And the reason there were two is because back in those days they felt that the senior staff should be in one scheme and the junior staff should be in another scheme. But of course, that is not allowed anymore. In fact, our act doesn't allow you to discriminate. If you have a scheme, all your staff should be in the same scheme. So both of them are regulated by us. What happened is when devolution came and moved to counties, Lab Trust changed the name from Lab Trust to County Pension Fund, just to be in line with the new circumstances. But they have a number of schemes. They have one of the individual schemes I talked about, which is open to anybody, and then they have the traditional Lab Trust, which is closed. They closed that scheme. And then they have the CPF scheme. So counties can opt to register their workers in either Lab Trust or Lab Fund, and they do. So they are still contributing, and the scheme is still operating, and it's regulated by us, and it follows all the rules, just like any other scheme.
I think I would just want to go back to that question that was raised earlier on an employer not remitting deductions to a retirement scheme, even including NSSF, and then what's the reprieve for that employee? Because we hear very many complaints, not just from companies that have, let's say, closed shop, but companies that are still in existence. In fact, at some level, government entities that do not remit some of these deductions. So what is it that an employee can do to make sure that their deductions are actually remitted to the fund?
Yes, this is a big problem for us, and unfortunately, it has become even worse with the COVID pandemic. We have some culprits, and actually, counties are one of the culprits, and it's very unfortunate because we would expect the counties to set a good example. So we have counties which have failed to remit to those schemes I was talking about, Lab Trust and Lab Fund, and that is the biggest chunk of unremitted contributions. The other set of culprits is the universities. The universities used to have very good schemes that are doing very well. When we had the reforms in the education sector and the parallel programs, which used to be a big revenue stream for them, disappeared, they started running into financial problems. And one of the areas that they started failing to comply was remittance of statutory contributions, pensions and others. So universities owe some good money to the scheme. So what we do, we have various sanctions that we can apply. one of those sanctions that we have done, and I don't want to mention which companies, is we actually order them to stop the deductions. You see, if you are getting your payslip and your payslip is saying that 5,000 has been deducted and sent to the scheme, but it has not actually been sent to the scheme.
Yeah.
It's better that we stop and then they give you the 5,000 yourself, then you can bring it to the scheme.
As an IPP or take it to a scheme personally.
Yes, exactly. So we have ordered some to stop the deductions.
Yeah.
Others, we have agreed remedial plans, and those remedial plans sometimes involve transfer of assets from the company to the scheme.
Yeah.
So, for example, some of the buildings in town, which were owned by the universities, have been transferred to the pension scheme to make up that unremitted contributions. And then in the worst case scenario, we actually go to the courts and say, look, these guys are not remitting. They owe so much money to the scheme. We want you to wind up the scheme and appoint a liquidator to go for the assets of the company and have them transferred to the scheme. So those are the measures that we take. But the other thing that we did, of course, is because our parent ministry, the National Treasury, we have always been alerting the Treasury. I know Treasury is the one which provides budget to some of these institutions. So they have now made that issue of statutory contributions, a key. When you go for budget discussions, the first thing they ask you is, have you remitted all your statutory contributions?
Nice.
And you can't come here for money when you have not been. Because one thing about the Treasury, they may cut budgets of institutions, but they will never cut budgets for personal emoluments, including the pension. There's no way they will not give money which is enough to cover for the pension and the salaries.
Right.
So if somebody is not remitting, it means that money which Treasury sent them for salaries has been diverted to something else.
Right.
Because there's no way Treasury would say we're not giving you money for salaries. Even if they say there are budget cuts and so on, the salaries must be
paid.
Must be paid. So we are happy now that we are getting the backing of the government. Of course, we had His Excellency the President himself talk about statutory deductions and pending bills that they must be paid.
Yeah.
So we are happy that with that pressure, this issue will be resolved once and
so there's teeth to bite.
Yes.
All right. Let's hear from John before we look at other questions as well. John in Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah. First, I'm happy that we are having this discussion because I think for a long time the issue of the pension has not been looked into. And especially, my question goes to the issue of NSSF. Because I'm assuming that is the biggest pension scheme that we have. But if you look at the way it is structured, it's sold to the people, and the way the private pension schemes are being run, somebody is left wondering, why should I continue to contribute to NSSF? While I can make my contribution to the private pension schemes.
Yeah.
Because it appears like I'm going to benefit more through the private pension scheme as compared to NSSF. While yet, NSSF should be our first choice of pension scheme because it is the largest, it is government sponsored. I believe in other countries, the government pension schemes are the most viable compared to the private ones. So I don't know what he thinks about the issue of NSSF and what can be done to improve the NSSF.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, John, that's a very good question. Normally in the pension system, we have what we call pillars. We have what we call the zero pillar, which is what government does through Inuka Jamii program, where they give some 2,000 or 3,000 every month to elderly persons, just to make sure that at least people are not in really absolute poverty. And then normally you have a first pillar, which again is a government scheme, which is like NSSF, which again provides basic income and is mandatory. NSSF is mandatory for everybody. Everybody who's working is supposed to be in NSSF. Even those in the informal sector are supposed to actually join NSSF. And then we have now the third and fourth, which is the private system, which is voluntary, which is the one that we are pushing for people to join schemes on voluntary basis and save, which is what we call an income replacement pillar. So it's no longer now basic social security. It is you are trying to maintain your standard of living when you retire. So you're trying to replace this so that you have similar income to when you are working, or something like 2/3 of the income that you had when you're working. So NSF is really supposed to provide this basic social security, and it should be mandatory for everybody. Now, back in 2013, the NSF Act was amended, and a new act came, which brought some changes. It split NSF into two. NSF contributions into two, what they call Tier 1, which is the basic, and then Tier 2, which is a higher amount, which was going up to 6% of salary. But what that law said is if you have a scheme approved by RBA, then you're exempted from the Tier 2. Exactly what John is saying. If you already have this other good scheme, then you don't need to contribute to Tier 2. You just do the Tier 1, which is a low amount. Is what we are currently contributing is a very low figure. So that at least you have the basic here, and then you have this income replacement from your other scheme. Now, unfortunately, that law, some people went to the courts, and that law has never kicked off since 2013. As we speak today, that law has not been implemented. But I understand that there are a lot of high-level discussions with the unions and others to try and unlock that so that we can move in that direction. But even for the Tier 1, it's important that Tier 1 is properly invested, that it is you get it in time and so on. And that's why I was saying earlier that over the years we have been able to really improve on NSSF in terms of investment, administration, and so on, so that those challenges of the past are no longer there.
Mr. Zomo, why isn't...
Siti, before you ask that question, we want to say goodbye to our audience on KTN and then continue the conversation briefly with Nzomo to the top of the hour. We've been with KTN from 7 to now 3 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or you can tune in through your mobile devices to our social media platforms, Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
All right, so 3 minutes to 9 o'clock. We are seeing very many questions coming in on the issues of, pensions and managing your pensions and contributions and getting your money out. So Nzomo Mutuko, the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority, is here with us, and he's graciously accepted to be with us for another couple of minutes into the 9 o'clock so that we can answer some of these questions. So you wanted to ask him something, Siti, before we went in.
Yes, this issue of pensions and the contributions that go into pensions, why is it not compulsory?
Very good question. Why shouldn't everybody be in a scheme? I would say it should be compulsory. Because at the end of the day, everybody needs to save for retirement, and it's a good thing. In some countries, they have done it. I think the challenge, perhaps in Kenya, is that because of this huge informal sector, even if you make it compulsory, it's very hard to enforce. You can say it, but it becomes very difficult to enforce because the records are not anywhere, and it's hard. It's hard to get it. I think number two, we kind of had this, heritage having come from the British system, and we kind of inherited the British system, which was a voluntary trust-based system. So we inherited that, and that's what we have been having. But if you look at the UK, recently they came up with a compulsory scheme. They call it Nest, and everybody has to join. So I think from the policy perspective, it's something that we are supporting. The government is working on what they are calling the National Retirement Benefits Policy, which they want to take to cabinet soon, and we would want perhaps that policy to have some of those proposals in terms of compulsion for pension saving.
Okay. So some questions you'll be asking after we take a look at traffic. It's coming up to 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Well, people really want to understand what happens when they contribute to retirement benefits schemes and pension schemes and how they can then benefit even further. Nzomo Mutuko, the CEO of Retirement Benefits Authority, is here with us in the studio. He'll be with us for a couple more minutes, about 8 minutes into 9 o'clock, and we'll pose some of the questions that you're asking to him. Good morning. It is now 9 o'clock.
up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right, still some traffic on Thika Road today, coming from that junction at Kiambu Road and then connecting with Muthaiga Kon towards the Pangani underpass. It's a little bit slow there. Everybody's asking for an alternate route getting off of Kiambu Road, at least to try and get into the city centre. Well, we'll look at that. We also see the diversions that are happening around Westlands, stopping traffic or at least slowing it down considerably so. And so that's going to take some time also. It's looking better coming off Mombasa Road, not as bad as it was early in the morning. But around the construction, that'll definitely slow you down. Uhuru Highway, all the way from the Nyayo Stadium through to the city, that's a bit slow as well. Gong Road is what we're looking at now. As you approach Valley Road, it's a bit slow right around the roundabout. But we're getting out of traffic hours soon enough, and looks like we're trying to keep it moving as best we can. Talk to us just in case. I think things on the southern bypass are looking a little bit better as well. Spice FMKE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's The Situation Room. We begin this hour like we do every hour with the day's proverb, City.
If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, then all are tired.
Umesikia hiyo, Nzomo?
Yes.
If you get tired,
it's not at the RBA that will be tired. Abana. Every other institution that deals with pensions will be tired.
Kuisha.
We shall not tire.
Yes.
We shall continue to lead.
Questions, Ndu?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so one is, what is the least amount that can actually contribute on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis? Will RBA take whatever I have?
It differs from scheme to scheme. Every scheme has its rules. So there's no set in the law. We have one scheme, for example, which is called BAO Pension Plan, which really targets informal sector, the Juakali workers. It's actually sponsored by the Juakali Federation. And the BAO is meaning 20 bob. So
it's BAO of 20. I was thinking,
contribute 20 shillings. Contribute 20 shillings a day. That's what they are telling their members.
Right.
Try to send at least 20 shillings a day, which will be around 600 per month. So it just varies from scheme to scheme.
Okay. So another question then that came out is that where does this money go? Are you building and growing this money? And then how does it translate for me in the future?
Absolutely. The money is invested in accordance with guidelines that we issue. So they invest in different things. You know, I mentioned real estate earlier. They invest in the capital markets. They invest in government securities, which is very popular with a lot of schemes. They have a little bit even offshore. They invest in a diversified portfolio because the law requires you to diversify so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And then the interest that is earned is credited to the members. So every year in fact, every quarter you get some credit going into your account in the pension scheme. So last year, which was a very difficult year because of COVID, the average return for the industry was around 7.5%, which is at least above inflation. So at least they got real returns. If you look at the previous year, it was 17%. So, you know, if you get this money coming into your scheme and you are saving for, let's say, 20 years or 30 years, when you retire, most of the money, maybe even 70% of the money you get, will not be what you put in. No. It will be that income because it's compounded. Remember, the 17% from 2019 has now earned another 7% in 2020. Maybe 2021 it will earn another 15%. So it's not what you're putting in. It's actually the investment income, which will be the major source of your money when you retire.
Okay.
And compound interest is very powerful.
It is.
Because interest earns interest.
Mercy is asking that is it too early for her to start this for her teenage children? Can she do this on their behalf? I have 2 teenage boys, and if I start this for them, it's likely to be something that they would continue in the future. Is this something that can be considered for me?
Add me to that question.
You, Eric.
I don't have 2 teenage boys, but yeah.
Absolutely. You should start. I really urge you to start now. Because when you start when they are very young, the amount that you'll be contributing per month is very little. Because you know that they're going to save for, let's say, 30 years, so 40 years before they retire. So you don't have to save much. You just save a little every month. And over 40 years, with that power of compounding, it will be a huge amount.
But how will this be
but if you start
registered?
at my
Under
age,
your name or under the child's
the
name?
child's
This
name.
child is below 18.
What I would advise you to do is maybe start within your own scheme or your own account. Then when they reach 18, because you transfer into the child's account. But yes, you're right, you can't have it in your name before 18, just like bank accounts and so on. But you can start doing it. You know that I'm putting aside, this 1,000 for each of my children into this scheme. And when they reach 18, I'm going to open for them accounts in the IPP, and I'm going to transfer this money to them.
In terms of advice on what to do, there may be somebody who would be like a fish out of water, and they say, okay, maybe I have some extra money every month, which probably shouldn't be looked at like that. Extra, and so I throw it there. It should be a priority. So they say, I don't know where to start. I don't know what would be best for me. Which scheme should I enter into, knowing that I could retire soon and I have children behind me? In terms of advice, is it readily available? Are there people who can go to, fund managers, things like this? Who or what direction could you point them in?
Of course, for us, all the 36 that we register, they're all our babies. So we never say this one is better than the other. So you can join any, but of course, different schemes target different groups. There are those which are targeting higher end individuals, so they may have high minimums. So you may not be able to join. Somebody may not be able to join that one, or it may be the right one for them. There are those which are targeting the informal sector. There are those which are targeting professionals and so on. So the best starting point is our website because, like I said, it has the list and it has links, so you can go and check each of them and see which one suits you. But you can also visit us in our office. We have a customer desk where you can come and they can just give you some general advice without pointing you in a particular scheme, but they can give you general advice about the things to look for in the scheme.
Julius is asking, so they've been a member of a scheme that was set up by the employer, and then they leave employment. Are they able to draw out all the money and take it to an IPP of their choice? And he already has an answer. He says no, because you only could withdraw their personal contribution. The employer's contribution was locked to that scheme. So how do they get to benefit from the other contribution that they've left to the employer scheme?
Judith, there are two things. When you leave an employer, you can access a certain amount. That's the 50% she's talking about. You can access 50% of employer contribution and 100%. By access, I mean take it out in cash, and which is also risky because you have been saving for retirement. You can take the money out and you end up squandering it, and then you don't have anything in retirement, or you only have the 50% of employer in retirement. That is one, and we always encourage people to avoid that. If you're moving from one job, if you're working for Standard and you go to work in Nation, you shouldn't take your money out of Standard. You should either leave it there or transfer it to Nation or transfer it to an IPP.
Okay.
So the second thing is that you can't transfer all of it, even the 50% he's talking about, to a new scheme, including an IPP.
Okay.
But even when you transfer it, you still will not be able to access it until retirement. So that 50% of employers is locked until retirement. So you can transfer, but you will still not access it until retirement. Okay. But it is still yours, and you can put it to the place that you're happy with.
Okay.
So if you have left in bad blood and you don't want them to keep your money, you feel free.
Transfer it somewhere else.
Transfer it to one of the 36 IPPs. It will still continue to grow there.
Nzoma, what's the guarantee that folks' money is safe? What's the guarantee that, you start saving for retirement at 40, 30, 35? What's the guarantee that in 30 years, I'll get this money that I've been putting in every month?
Your guarantee is the legal framework because we have a very robust legal framework to protect this money. So, of course, money which is invested, there are good years and there are bad years.
Sure.
So, like I said, last year was a bad year. We got 7%, but the previous year was 17%. So, yes, in terms of the return, there's always fluctuations. But because of this framework that we have put where you have forced you to diversify, because the schemes must diversify. This framework where you're using professionals, because they must use fund managers. This framework where you're using custodians, so that, if something happens to the scheme, the money itself is with a separate person, the custodian, so you can still get your money out. So because of all these checks and balances, you're pretty sure that the money is safe. But if you're very risk averse, we also have a product within the industry which is called the guaranteed funds. Guaranteed funds guarantee you that no matter what happens, and they are normally done by insurance companies, they will pay you a certain amount. So let's say 5%. So they'll say no matter what happens in the market, even if the actual investment loses money, as an insurance company, we are going to put in our own money to make sure that you get at least 5%. So for those really risk-averse individuals, this is a guaranteed fund product which they can use to ensure at least they get a certain amount.
Okay.
We thank you very much for joining us today, Nzomo. Give a final message as your parting shot, right, to everybody who's listening, who's followed this conversation this morning. What is it that you think they need to know about RB and about pension schemes?
Yes, my parting shot really is to urge, particularly the youth, particularly those in what we call gig economy and the informal sector and so on. Don't be left out of this opportunity to save for your retirement. Your formal sector colleagues probably they just joined that job. They didn't even do anything. Their employer had already set up a scheme. They had no choice, and now they are saving, but they are going to benefit from it when they retire. But if you don't have that advantage of having an employer who has done this for you, then you really need to take it upon yourself to see how you can save for retirement. So the government has given tax incentives so that people can save for retirement. They have set up a regulatory body to make sure your money is safe. So let's not lose the opportunity. Let's save for retirement. Retirement is a fluid term. We are not saying that when you reach a certain age you must stop working or you have to go home. No. But at some point you would want to have this income which is coming to safeguard you in those older age. So I know a lot of people say that I'll work for long, but eventually at some point you will stop working and this income will come in. It will come in very handy. So let's take advantage of what is there and start saving as early as possible.
Thank you very much. Nzomo Mutuko is the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority. He's been with us since 8 o'clock telling us about what the RBA has been doing and the registered schemes and how the benefits of basically looking at your own retirement and starting to plan early towards that. Nzomo, welcome back soon, right?
I'll be back.
So we can have this conversation and more and more people will be asking now specific questions about their schemes or what they'd like to do to join this. Asante sana for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
And we know you're a listener of this show. So
oh, yes, I am.
You're the one who calls and you call yourself. Okay, no. Have a good one. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room is 14 minutes after 9. Keep it right here for more conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande hii umbo yako iko na pembe.
Hii ni umba special.
is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay,
The
so
weather.
we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions still in Nairobi. There's a chance of a drizzle in some parts. Highs of 23 today, coming down to lows of 17. 17 is what it is currently in Nyeri. Highs of 24, lows of 15. 16 the low in Nakuru today. Sunny conditions at 19, going to highs of 26. 23 will be the high in Eldoret. Sunny conditions at 17. It's raining in Kisumu, 22 degrees, highs of 29. Also in Kakamega with highs of 29 today. Cloudy conditions in Mombasa, highs of 32. 31 the high in Malindi, and light rain as well. Cloudy conditions in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 20. We're looking at Dar es Salaam, and it's raining here as well. Highs of 30 and lows of 27. Partly sunny conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Lagos is mostly sunny at 26, highs of 34 and lows of 26. It's cloudy in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Still hazy, small, quite low in Beijing, 9 degrees, highs of 12 and lows of -3. -6 and getting colder in Paris. Low temperatures today, highs of 1 and lows of -3. And we're looking at cloudy conditions at -1 in London. And we're looking at a snowstorm today, 0 the high and lows of -2. And finally in New York, snow showers started the morning at -1. It'll go to highs of 1 and lows of -5.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 17 minutes after 7. After 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room. What is it?
Eric thinks he's in Lagos. It's understandable.
Which day of the week is it, Eric? Which
Today.
day of the week? Yes.
Today.
Okay.
It's that Thursday.
It's that day.
Today. It is that time. Okay? You look at your clock or your phone. You tell yourself that leo ni ile siku. All right. The president yesterday did a bit of a tour around Nairobi, and as happens, people came out to greet their leader, and he addressed them, and he mentioned a couple of things. Number one, you guys have been going round saying, this BBI is because Uhuru wants to stay on power. He does not want to retire. Uhuru is too young. Uhuru has said it very many times, more than once, and he repeated it yesterday again. Yeye anaenda nyumbani. Just listen to what he said.
Wengine wanawaambia Uhuru anataka kutawala. Mimi najua mwaka ujao mimi naenda nyumbani. Mimi sina shida na hiyo.
Clear?
Sina shida.
Crystal. Yeye anajua anaenda nyumbani. Hata kutawala na hii mambo yenu mnataka kusema. But the rider to that conversation.
Wale ambao wataendelea hawatakuwa watu ya kunyanyasa na kuibia wananchi. Ama ni namna gani wenzangu? Nia yangu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wataendelea watakuwa na hiyo roho ya kuunganisha Wakenya, sio kuwaganya Wakenya.
First, he is very clear and he understands the law as it's been set, and this is one of those laws that he intends to observe and follow. There's a term, there's a constitutional term, and he knows his term is coming to an end in August next year. He will hand over power to the new president. His desire, however, is to leave a united Kenya, is to leave a Kenya that moves on and carries on from the work that the Jubilee administration has done. And the country that he wants to leave is a country where leadership will be handed over to people who will not nyanyasa wa Kenya or steal from Kenyans. He does not want to leave the country to a leader who is going to be thinking of how the schemes of how they can steal from the people. He wants to leave a strong, united Kenya that moves forward. He doesn't want to leave the country to thieves and people who will exploit Kenyans. He talked about now, look, for example, at Nairobi, okay? Nairobi, you voters of Nairobi, you elected your governor, and we've seen the kind of challenges that Nairobi government has. Then what did we do? We came up with the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, where we put in a major general, no less, a senior general in the military to come and serve here. And look at the work that the NMS has done so far. They're opening up hospitals. They're working on water and water provision. They're working on other services of infrastructure and developing our infrastructure, improving our infrastructure. This is a kind of record that I want to leave for the country. Now, do you believe, if you look at Uhuru and where he is at right now, he's considering, on consolidating his legacy, things that we shall remember him by. Do you think that he has set a good ground towards the next, how many months are left? 16 months towards the end of his tenure? Do you think he's actually setting up a good legacy that we can remember him by, CT?
He is. 16 months is a long time in politics. It's a very, very long time in politics. You see, anytime a politician speaks, one of the things that is dominant in that speech is what you call dog whistle communication. There's what he's saying and there's what he is not saying. Okay. There is what he means and there's what you hear.
Right.
And there's what he wants you to hear and understand. Because when a president speaks that clearly and with the amount of energy and passion that this president has spoken on these matters, it tells you that he himself, he's not at a crossroads, but he has arrived at a position of decision. He had said, you know something, folks, all this playing Mr. Nice Guy and everything is all good and well, but I no longer need to call him model anyone because I am not going to be president anymore. I'm not going to seek an elective post anymore. I actually have very little to lose, but I have a lot to gain if I take certain steps.
Okay.
Because it's not as though when you retire, you'll stop being alive. You'll be alive and you'll be in this country. But what is worse is that if you made any mistakes or you made decisions that now impacted very directly on the common man, those decisions and the impact will be with you because you'll be in the country and you can see them. People may not tell you, but you will know because you are the president. You know, we don't have two presidents, just one at a time.
Just one.
It will be you.
People will be remembering the Uhuru presidency.
It'll be Uhuru
presidency. We don't talk about Atio, Mudiawori, Kibaki.
No.
We talk about Kibaki.
No. It's Kibaki. It doesn't matter even if you're prime minister. You're not mentioned when you're talking about the presidency. It is the person who was the president. And it's a tall order because you're talking about all these years where the legacy has been riddled with very many instances of failure, very many instances of unfulfilled promises, very many instances of dashed hopes. So now you have a situation where you're realizing, you know something, I'm not going anywhere. And even if I leave this country, my name will be forever be etched into the causal effects of the decisions that the administration I led made.
Okay, it's beautiful that he's come to this realization, or maybe the realization has been there for some time, but now it's being overt about it, right? And it's very clear that he's stuck on some things. I don't want to leave this country in the hands of those who are going to steal from Kenyans, right? That one is very clear. So then it would seem to me that he is aware that there are people now...
There are thieves in this country.
Right now, who are stealing from Kenyans today, who are taking away from the livelihoods of Kenyans today and have a desire to be in government tomorrow. So my thing is that then you deal with them today.
And ensure that they do not get into leadership so that they can continue stealing from you.
How would you like him to deal with them today?
Somebody is stealing. You know that they are stealing. You stop them in their tracks.
Use the law.
And
use the powers that
law
have been given to you
prosecute them. 1 + 1 is 2, in my opinion. And before it's been said that he has raised his hand and said, now what do you people want me to do? I have set in place the things that need to be done, but people still go ahead and steal. No. You have the position. You have the power. You have the law on your side. When it comes to these folks who are stealing, you know who they are. You've come out overtly in the last few weeks and said 2 billion shillings is going to corruption. You even know the amount. You know where it's being lost from. So do something about it today.
Maybe that's
so
what
that
he's
you
trying
reduce
to do.
the power, so that you reduce the incidence of this
of
thing
this 2
before
billion,
it gets to that point when you will not be in power and then he's going to come and take over and be president of the country. Come on.
Maybe that's what he's trying to... You know, as you talk about following the rule of law, the rule of law also says that if you take this person to court, you've got to prove it. And as has been said, not just in Kenya, but across the globe, these economic crimes are some of the hardest to take to court to prove. Because taking that evidence and saying, this is it, this is how Ndu took her hand, dipped it in the cookie jar, removed 2 billion and went and consumed by herself at a corner, you have to prove it. It's very difficult.
Even the one that
maybe that's the reason why he keeps talking about, all right, so this amount of money is going, let's try and seal all the loopholes, and they still find ways of getting to the loopholes. Let's empower the office of the DPP. Let's empower the EACC. Let's see it going to court, and you still have that frustration. Because of why?
I get
because
it, man.
You're dealing with a very sharp thief.
I get it, Eric. I understand that. But I still think that in terms of the effort or even the design, I think it's a little bit lackadaisical, because you still have the people to whom they proved sentenced to 62 years in jail is still sitting on the floor of the House.
Yes.
Till tomorrow. Because of the law.
Law.
Because of the law.
Actually.
Law. And you as president have nothing that you can do, because the law does not give you power to go and overturn a court ruling.
It sounds really awful when you think about it.
It's awful, City, not sounds. It's
No,
awful.
no. I understand that it is awful, but why I'm saying it sounds awful, but the truth of the matter is this. If you do not have that level playing field where you can see the law working for every Kenyan, even the one you consider despicable, then you've already discriminated. You've already interfered with that person's right. You may not like it. It may leave a bad taste in your mouth. It may have your ears ringing. But unfortunately, that is how the law should work. Remember we were talking about earlier on the complaints that the immediate former governor of Nairobi was making. And I said, but he is right. And I'm glad he's bringing it out. He's a prominent person. So when he says something, the prominence he has goes with whatever he's saying. But it is the reality of very many Kenyans. We've had in this show people calling in, people who were jailed. A young person was jailed. 11 years later, you're set free.
Yeah.
Some were even falsely accused, but because you didn't have the wherewithal to mount a defense, you stay in jail.
Yep.
And maybe you're fortunate when there's a general amnesty that has been provided by the president, you're let out. The number of people who are in our jails who shouldn't be, they are really very many. So if it takes the plight of a former governor for us to understand it, well, good.
These other countries around the world who deal with issues of corruption, and before you can even say Jack Robinson, somebody has resigned, before it even gets to the point where they've been charged, what is it that spurs them on? They say we're going to have a zero tolerance of corruption. We're not going to actually deal with it.
It's their society.
Yes.
It's not their president or their king.
No. And they're part of that society.
Why do you want me to finish what I'm saying?
Finish.
No, see, we're just contributing to it.
Oh, you're contributing. Okay, please carry on. You're saying?
Go on.
No.
It's the
Now
society.
we're contributing with silence.
No. Continue what you're saying. The society did what?
Look, what my contribution isn't really useful if you're not speaking.
You have to speak. So
you have to speak.
So that he syndikiza.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just escorting it.
So it's a society that has refused across board to deal with this kind of thing. So here it's like it has permeated, compacted so deep down that the president can come out and tell you that money is being lost at these astronomical amounts on a daily basis, and everybody says,
yeah.
Wow.
And people start point fingers at the president.
It's okay.
You know how much is being stolen. Not the fact that it's being stolen. People are actually pissed off at the
that you
president.
know that it's this amount and you know it's that much that has been stolen. Then now when you want to say that I don't want to leave it in the hands of somebody who's going to come and steal from Kenyans, the stealing is going on now. The stealing is going on today. It's not as if the person who is going to be president in the next 1.5 years is going to start
stealing.
Come on. It's happening right now. It's not a new thing. Why can't we deal with it today? And I'm going to stick on that point.
Because
something can be done about it today.
Because it's not as though the stealing and the amounts involved took place in one day. It's over time.
Neither is it going to start one day in 2022.
Yes. So even the solution doesn't start in one day. Let me explain why I'm saying this. Remember I mentioned the concept of a dog whistle communication. You see, from where I sit, or from where I view things, I get the impression that there are certain allowable crimes if you're in a certain position of authority and power.
In Kenya?
Yes, allowable.
Okay.
Especially plundering coffers of state. It's allowable up to a certain point.
Up to a certain amount or
yes,
status?
amount is the point.
Okay.
Because one, we acknowledge that there are election expenses, okay, which must be recouped. Okay, it's understood. No one says it aloud.
And there's handouts here and there.
It's understood, and this must be recouped. We also understand that there's a war chest that everyone who wants to vie for a political position must build. That's what I'm saying. So a certain amount of corruption at a certain level is allowed. Okay? But where people start complaining is where, my goodness, it's not even a little bit. They want to take everything.
You're taking the root plus the seeds.
Yes, exactly.
Surely.
In fact, no.
What are we going to come and steal tomorrow when
in
we get
Kenya,
into
it's
that
not even
office?
that. They even want to take the soil. So you're wondering, goodness gracious me.
So you're saying, okay, just take. So what you're saying essentially, oh my God, as deplorable as it sounds, just steal a little bit. Don't take everything.
Yes.
Just take a little bit so that we can have
but it's a
something left
mindset that
over.
is understood.
And I'm saying now this mindset needs to be removed. Because you can't come and complain here and then on the other side you're saying, well, okay, they stole everything. See, they just take a little bit. Then you complain when the president says it's 2 billion. Which one do you want? Where are you?
Let's take a break, okay? Let's see what's happening on the roads and then we continue this conversation. So the president was out yesterday and he says, yes, for avoidance of doubt, I know that my term expires next year and I know that I will no longer be president. I am going home. I know that and I have absolutely no problem with that. But at the same time, I want to leave a united Kenya. I do not want to leave this country in the hands of people who are going to come and steal from Kenyans, especially using those words, stealing from Kenya. Wale watakuja kuibia watu. But at the same time, when you're looking at all those things and what the president has been saying lately, do you think the president is actually on a path to setting a strong and lasting legacy of his presidency past 2022? We want to hear from you, 0719 012 600. We'll pick your calls after we take a look at traffic. Good morning.
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, it's looking better coming off Mombasa Road. Still slow, so let's not worry about the construction part of it. You can get through. We're not at a bumper-to-bumper situation just anymore, so it looks much better. Kiambu Road, that's another story. Bumper-to-bumper all the way to Muthaiga Corner. Folks are asking for an outlet, but for now, that's what we're going to have to deal with. Between Karen and Gong today, unfortunately, there seems to be some riots again with these Matatu operators because they don't want this new entrant onto the scene. So if you can avoid, please do use an alternate route out and in as well. Okay, so through the day we might see pickups of traffic, especially if it rains like it's promising to do. We'll see how that looks through today. You can talk to us on Spice FMKE on Twitter, or you can talk to us on text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94 point.
President Uhuru Kenyatta on course to leaving behind a lasting and strong legacy past his presidency in 2022. What do you think? Let's go to the phone lines. Elijah, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
We're very well, thanks.
I agree with Ndu in this case. The idea that theft must happen and let us just limit it. We all know corruption exists, even in the US, even in Japan. It exists. But that does not mean we should condone it. The way you reduce something is by aiming to get rid of it. Not by saying, okay, what's the sana? Because then they'll stop stealing as much maize and steal more beans. At the end of the day, you still can't make githeri. We need to have a mindset of this must end. Let me give you an example. I one time worked in a country called Burundi. They were relatively poor, and the idea of this is a kilo of meat at the time cost 600 shillings, Kenya equivalent. A doctor's salary, recently graduated after 8 years of school, was the equivalent of 6,000 shillings. So a doctor's salary was enough to buy 10 kilos of meat. That's the idea of their purchasing power. So the doctors lived in the equivalent of Kibera there. The number of carjackings that happened in that country in the year were 2. And these were guys coming from Tanzania. This is a people who were dead broke but still had moral integrity to not steal from each other. Now, if we as Kenyans consider stealing from each other fair game, when will we ever hire someone who aspires to a higher ideal? Kikulacho ni kingoni mwetu.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Now, juxtapose that to the conversation of, so the president is talking about leaving a legacy and he does not want to leave the country in the hands of known thieves. And
those known thieves are his known associates. What does he mean? I mean, yes, he's talking politics, but what is he going to do in a year that he hasn't done in 8? He is part and parcel of the thievery. Let's not lie to each other. He has been part of the theft. When you look at the state capture, he's stealing from the country. Ask yourself what's happening in the milk industry. Ask yourself what's happening in the cement industry. He is part and parcel of the problem. So unless we are going by the rule of set a thief to catch a thief, I don't buy it. I don't believe him, not for a second.
I think you're shooting the messenger, though. But the message should be the same. Let's not have a thief taking over from Uhuru.
Let's not have a thief taking over from a thief. Sure.
From Uhuru.
Yes.
Thank you, Elijah. But City wants to talk to you.
What I want to ask is, I mean, your perspectives have a lot of merit. Elijah, you don't think that you are being a little too harsh?
No. And here is the reason why. When you put yourself in the position of elected office, you need to have a thick skin. You need to be able to take the criticism and the compliments just the same. For us to then say we don't want to hurt your feelings while the shilling has dropped to an all-time low against the dollar, what are we saying?
Indeed, what are we saying?
Here's my point. You were talking about president.
Yes.
In Kibaki's tenure, there was corruption, no question. But Kibaki will be remembered for building structures. And it is those structures that developed the Kenyan economy. It wasn't something overt. Yes, we have the Thika superhighway. But far more was done in Kibaki's tenure for the country economically, I would argue, than by Uhuru's tenure.
Okay.
Because Uhuru's tenure has been riddled with borrowing and corruption.
Okay.
These two things tend to worsen economy.
That's true. Perspectives. Elijah, thank you for your call.
Thanks, Elijah.
Have a lovely one. John in Elbagon, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Salama kabisa. How is Elbagon?
Fine. Now,
yes.
There is a country called Georgia. It's an ex-Soviet republic.
Yes.
In 2003, there's a revolution which happened there called the Rose Revolution. And the president who came into power, the first thing that he did, he disbanded the whole of the traffic department. The whole of it, 30,000 police officers. Because it was the most corrupt department in the country. Now, why am I talking about that and that example? I've heard you guys say that it is the people, the society to make the change. the change can never come from the people. It must come from the leadership.
Okay.
And all the countries that have had any meaningful change, the change has come from the leadership. The Singapores of this world, the Rwandas of this world. There must be somebody at the top who is going to make that change. So if our leaders are talking to us like they have resigned themselves to fate, it's very unfortunate. And that's why as we go to vote next time, we have to ask ourselves, who is that one person or two people who are able to make that change for us as a people?
Do you honestly think, and this I want to ask you, that when we go to the ballot, which is next year, that we will be looking at our choice of leader differently from the way we've done in the past?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. But I'm saying I hope we can do that.
Let me place this burden on you. What then do you think must happen for people to actually change their minds so that they look at this whole process differently?
In most cases, as I said, you are again shifting the burden to the people. But
yes,
me, I'm
it's
saying
exactly
the
to
burden
this
is
one
to
person,
them.
you that is, of course.
You, the voter.
Yes.
You, me, the voter, the
Yes.
decision I have to make.
Yes.
For us, as a person, I can make that decision. But I'm saying now, generally as a nation, I think we have to, unfortunately, I've said this before, I think we have to go down economically, socially, until we reach a point and realize that we have to, as a people, we have to make a change. I don't think we have reached that level where we have felt that pain. You know, we say that we are poor. I don't think we have reached as a nation that level. We say that we are actually so poor that I'm not going to look at a person as from the tribe, from where he comes from. Because if we reach that level, then we'll not look at people from their tribe and where they come from.
Yeah.
That's true.
So my point, I hope that we'll go so down as a people until we reach that level. That's the only thing that is going to make us wake up from this.
Thank you, John. Have a good day in Elbagon.
Thank you.
Mwalimu Irongo Amos.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year, Mwalimu.
Happy New Year.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I've been unwell.
Pole sana.
Pole.
Lakini nimepona.
Tunashukuru Mungu.
Thank you. Now, the caller who has just left has reminded me something I read in No Long at Ease, where the main character, Obi Okonkwo, was looking at how much people had accommodated corruption, and then he was asking himself, where does one start? So he was wondering whether somebody would want to teach the masses, or what else would one do to change the country. But my contribution is based on what he has said. In fact, it is true that it's very difficult for people to change their country, the masses, very difficult. Because what happens largely is that once we have elected these guys, we actually give them we give them the right to manage the country. They have the resources, they have the power, they have everything, and then they turn around now and behave as though they were doing a favor to us when they offer services to us. Unajua, ukipatia mtu bunduki na askari hata akiiba kura, you know, at the end of the day you unasema, okay, let us behave in this way, we get something small from them. The point, my suggestion would be what I said around April, March there. We need a few people, of course, in leadership, who may want to look at this thing and say, let us change this country so that we may start a revolution. I'm sorry to use that word. I'm not afraid of using it. Because I want you to look at Raila. Raila amekuwa mwana mapinduzi na amejaribu sana, lakini amefinywa mpaka he has gone to dance the tune so that he can be helped. So my point is that we as the people hatutaweza. How many times have we watched people winning elections? Unanyanganywa tu. Why? Because you askari, you don't have anything. You have the people. Imagine Raila Odinga in this country is the only politician who was campaigning na hatoi pesa. Watu wanamfuata wote. At the end of the day, the results come out, and then you know what happened. So what I'm trying to say, to party, somebody younger, we get some younger people who can become the Georgia Nyonas and Orengos of those days. Some of us brave the beating with them until we get some change. That's my thinking.
Okay, Rongo.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana, Rongo Amos. 9:45, let's take a break and then we come back and take more of your calls. So we are talking about President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. Is he working towards building and solidifying a legacy that people can actually remember, okay, this is what President Uhuru Kenyatta did in his 10 years in office. Well, this is one president who will have only served 9 years in office because of, that thing that happened, new constitution elections happening in 2013. So do you think that the president, by the things that he's doing now, by the words that he's using now, the way he's speaking, he's actually working at solidifying his own legacy so that he'll leave a lasting legacy post-2022? 0719-012-600. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Spice up your life. Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Okay, so let's go back to the phone lines. Lydia in Nakuru, good morning.
Morning.
How are you today?
I'm very fine. And you people?
We are
well, thank you, Lydia.
Okay, now you are talking about the legacies of these people, Akina Uhuru, Akina Raila.
Yes.
No,
Specifically of
this
Uhuru.
legacy. Huh?
Specifically of Uhuru as the president.
Now, this about our president. Okay, he is good. But the problem is, this legacy has not yet gone far away because, you can say you have a lot of projects to do, but you have not yet reached the project that you wanted to do to us. So, okay, the legacy is good because he is president. When he talks, even he talks very well. Now, these other politics, they are not good at all. Even if we talk about election. So many years we have talked about election. But these elections are not working.
Okay.
You can say, I'm very happy because I'm going to be elected. But you are elected, and what you are talking about, if you elect me, I will put something in your table. There is nowhere we are going.
Yeah.
Unless we change.
Lydia, if I was to ask you, after 2022, when Uhuru leaves office, what do you think will be the bigger things that you'll remember him for?
I will remember him for love, for his love, for his confidence when he is with people, and when he's working with his people.
Okay.
He is working very well, but there is something that is left which people have to know what is going on. His legacy is very good. I will remember him for his love,
okay,
for his unity, for his confidence.
Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah.
Have a lovely day in Nakuru.
Okay.
All right. What is it that you remember him for? I mean, if you look at those years in his presidency, since 2013 to now, I mean, what is it that has been achieved by the government of Kenya under the stewardship of Uhuru Kenyatta as president?
I think the question should be demarcated. What are the positive things that you remember about the president?
And
Oh, you're assuming that Eric wanted the positive.
Yeah, I wanted everything.
What do I remember him for?
Yeah. Put them on the weighing scale. Give me the one that tilts the scale.
He's still president, so there's still time to tip the weighing scale in one direction or the other. But up to now, at a personal level, the bonhomie. This guy has the image of a nice guy like no other president we've had. His whole outlook, the way he goes about his things, as I said, he's a people person in terms of the way he interacts more than any other president we've ever had. Yes. Now, personal. Government. Goodness gracious.
Oh, wow.
Governance.
Goodness gracious.
What? Let's hear from Alan. Alan, good morning in Buruburu.
Yes, good. Thank you for the good work that you're doing. It's like civic education for the whole nation. Congratulations.
Asante.
Now, I wanted to contribute to this. To me, the Jubilee government, I don't care what the president has said, is the worst government I've ever lived under. Even as a diaspora, I come every year, every election year to vote. In this one, I lost even my property was attacked.
Where?
By the stories on YouTube in Ngoroi, Ongata Rongai. In broad daylight, I've been homeless for the last 3 years.
What happened, Alan?
The letter is even with the president, in the office of the president, Matiang's office, they have done nothing about it. The only person who helped me was the Chief Justice. Now, let me be honest, I'm homeless up to now. That's why I'm not in Ongata Rongai.
Alan, what happened? How did you lose your property? Oh, we've lost him. So John will try and get him back. I think that's a story that maybe Alan can tell us. So he says for 3 years he's been homeless. He's lost his property in Ongata Rongai at Ngoroi. And he is basically just pointing that straight at the government and saying they're responsible. Not even government officials or the highest office, the office of the president and interior and coordination of national government has been able to help him. So let's hear what that is. If you look at, okay, he's back on the line. Alan.
Yeah.
Pole, we lost you. So you were telling us what happened to your property in Ongata Rongai?
My property was, first there was 3 shoddy attempts to sell them while I was in the US. I uncovered brokers who were dealing with the policemen. But behind these policemen, there are politicians. As you know, the SGR was passing through Kajiado North.
Yeah.
So I am one of the victims, and let me be honest with you, politicians are under whatever is happening in Kajiado North. I was very vocal, and I'm a civic activist. And the story is on YouTube. But let me be honest, I was attacked in the broad daylight. They wanted to kill me and my daughter was visiting. I'm a single parent to a daughter. And they attacked me at 10 a.m. And up to 12:30, there was no help at all from the police, which is 10 minutes away. And there's a police post 100 meters away from my house that I started in Ngoroi. And this happened, and the only person who helped me later on was an OCS from Ngong, who sent a contingent, and when that contingent was about to arrive, the Ongata Rongai showed up, the police showed up, but they locked me up for 7 days, and during that time my house was vandalized, removed everything, burglar-proof, door, electric, everything, plumbing and what have you.
So why did they lock you up, Alan?
No, later on the 4th day after locking me up, there was a charge that I raped a 70-year-old woman. And this is something just to create euphoria. I think it's something they came up with last minute. But it didn't work. Because I was set free, even though they tried to put it up as a case, still set free by the Ngong law courts. That is why I went up through the judiciary, even the senior policemen. They all have my letters. By then, the inspector, it was Boynet. Now it is Mutiambai. I will try to work with the police and I pour.
Yeah.
And then again in Ngong, I was thrown in again.
So how do all this relate to you losing your land?
And that's why I'm telling you, there's cartels. All these brokers, they work with cartels. Some of these cartels are led by politicians.
Pole sana, Alan.
And I can be honest to you, if you check 3 or 4 top politicians in Kenya right now, they've acquired a lot of land in Kajiado North in the last 5 years. How? And you can tell even it's linked to the SGR. I am not next to the road, but I was an activist and very vocal.
Pole sana, Alan. And thank you very much for calling and sharing your
Yeah,
story.
I want you to invite me, and one day I'll tell you even much more, even about leadership in Kenya, and I'm willing to lead anything, even a revolution.
We will do that.
Yes, I have the balls and guts and facts to do it.
Asante, we'll do that. We'll invite you. Thank you, Alan.
Please, you have my number. Call me. I will be open. I have facts, and I will show you everything.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. What do you think of the president's legacy? This story of Alan, I think we can talk to him again and get to understand, get to the bottom of it.
Get
What
to
is
understand
it?
more detail.
Yeah, we
and
need
even,
to get
and,
more
and, and
details.
even talk to the police commander in that region, whether he could give us his input.
Yes.
But even, you remember, I exclaimed when you asked me about the legacy. Uru's legacy is a unique one, unique in this sense, in many ways. There's no other president who's had a father who preceded him by being a president. So his legacy starts with his father's legacy. That's a burden he came with, or that's a benefit he came with, even as he became president. Number 2, he came in with the new constitution. No other president has had the benefit or the burden of something as new and something as enormous as a constituency or as a constitution. Today is that day, isn't it?
It is that day.
Yes, to deal with. And then...
But can't you say his father also had the same? Forming a new republic, there's a new constitution that's been negotiated in Lancaster in your absence, and you're coming up and you're now moving a country forward from colonialism to this setting up a new country.
Yeah, indeed it was. Indeed it was new in that respect. But that constitution, how new was it? If you're talking about the newness, here we've had a legacy of a constitution for as long as we've been in this country since independence. And then there's this constitution we have. It's revolutionary. I mean, the word revolutionary refers to this constitution well. His father was able to get the devolution story killed, snuffed out, so that you have one unitary government. Here you are coming in with a new situation where you are dealing with Majimboism. We're calling it devolution, but that's what it is. No. There are too many balls in the air.
Too many things happening at the same time.
And then, to make it worse, you have a deputy you can't sack. Because if he had been one of the other presidents and they had the sort of disagreements we've seen with the deputy, that deputy would have ceased to be a deputy a long time ago.
You can't sack, a parliament that you can't dangle a carrot with cabinet positions.
Nothing.
A chief justice you can't sack.
My friend, many things you can't do. And then you have... This space we speak of, okay, President Kibaki really opened it up, but then it was really open by the time he came in. So you have a population of people who are more educated than any other president who's been there. And they are, as you said, the operative word, as our colleague Humphrey educated me as sometimes, but you're woke. Goodness. People say anything and everything, and then you have social media. No one has had this sort of background to work with.
Challenges.
No one.
We'll talk more about President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy in coming days as well. Coming to the top of the hour, City Today's proverb.
Right. If the leader of the hunting party gets tired, then all are tired.
And that's why Uhuru cannot get tired.
He doesn't have a choice. On this matter, he doesn't have a choice. Just like he didn't have a choice of parenthood, and he didn't have a choice of the sort of government he was likely to lead. There are many things he didn't have a choice in, but he did have a choice in wanting to be president.
He didn't have to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Tomorrow, join us. We'll have a guest host, and this is the former Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Mutunga. He'll be here from 7 to 9 as our guest host. We'll have very many conversations with him. Okay, that's something to look forward to, of course. So it's tomorrow from 6